Today we are going to start with lesson 11 system audit and an overview. For the last few days I was not able to upload my videos. The reason behind that was I was looking forward how can I can make my video more clear and visible to you. So the best part would be won't be needing any book now, and as these are the module, so it will be easy for you to keep a track of it, because obviously modules will be universal in every state or wherever the students of ICSI are studying. So I won't be taking much of your time. With respect to it, let me explain how it goes. For every statement which I'll read or study, I'll keep on highlighting the like this accordingly, so you won't be able to find it difficult to keep a track where I am on which statement or which sentence I'm on. So I believe let's just begin with the last chapter. So system audit is all about the nature and significant scope of system audit, steps involved in conducting system audit management function, and system audit of computerized secretarial function, norms and procedures for computerization, computer and control security, testing of computer system, documentation standard, policies and procedures, and audit approach. With respect to this, let's begin. So the increase in competition business has driven companies to compress their internal process and focus more on customer and external business environment. In the process, more and more of business process have been brought under the purview of system-based information technology. Now, there has been an increase in complexity by several other orders of magnitude. The arrival of the World Wide Web, the shift of traditional computer system into their web-based have only added new dimension in the form of threats to security. So that's very true. With the increase in information technology, there have been many instances where we are not able to just improve our way of working, the way we do things in real life, but also have raised the concern for security and threats it's been exposed to. A company secretary cannot function effectively in this information age without adequate knowledge of the benefits and demerits of the information system. The company secretary addressed the vital areas of good corporate governance and the compliance within the regulatory framework of the applicable laws. Is also a custodian and user of top level MIS that goes to the board of director beside the secretarial system. So this was something about the introduction of the company secretary with respect to the information technology. The reason we have some of the chapters concerned here, and now let's just take a view through. So the study lesson help been to provide an insight of the subject of system audit in the modern context of enterprise system and connectivity with buyers and suppliers and other stakeholders. So what is system audit? About 50 years ago, most of our information and data processing were fulfilled manually, mostly maintained on registers or hard copies. Now today, computers are used extensively to process the data and to provide decision making. The information system, the information does not necessarily means that the computer-based information system, the information technology is a major component of information system and itself not a solution. And nowadays, with the widespread availability of power microcomputers, package software, information technology is the backbone of information system. Because computer play a large part in assisting to us to process the data to take decision, it is important that they are used to be controlled. The uncontrolled use of computer can have a widespread impact on society. For example, inaccurate information causes misallocation of resources within the economy, and fraud can be perpetrated because of inadequate system control. So there is a need and greed for information technology, but also a threat, because there being more resources, people are getting more and more into information technology, be it your laptop computers or your phone device or anything which has to be dealt, which you do electronically. There is a concern, there is a raise with respect to the security for the same. Now the information system audit is being focused on whether systems safeguard the assets, maintain data integrity, facilitate the achievement of the objective of the company. The next is information auditing. Define. Information system auditing or system audit is the process for collecting and evaluating evidence to determine whether the computer system safeguards the assets, maintains data integrity, allows the organizational goals to be achieved effectively, and use resource efficiently. Now, thus the information system audit support traditional audit objective. A test objective those for external auditors that focus on asset safeguarding, data integrity, and management objective those of the internal auditor that encompasses not only a test objective but also the effectiveness and efficiency. So this is what it is all about. Now sometimes information system auditing has the another objective, namely ensuring that an organization complies with some regulation, rule, or condition. For example, a bank might have to comply with the government regulation about how much it can lend. Even such, so most of us would be indulged into banking systems, be it demat through demat account, savings account, bank transfer, NEFT, ECS. These are the way you are using information technology. So there needs to be a check on each and every sort of systems while you are doing anything like such, where there is a role of information technology, be it even placing an order on the Flipkart, or if there is something which you have to deal with respect to what we can say, I mean anything which is a legal obligation as per the Information Technology Act 2000, which recognizes the transaction which you do through e-mechanism, has to take into consideration with respect to security, and externally as well as internally. Now apart from that, information system is more of a crucial part of our day-to-day life, be it we are doing shopping, we are doing banking, we are buying, purchasing of shares, looking into various e-governance plans which are supposed to be considered and each and everywhere with respect to MCA, RBI, SEBI. Now information system auditing is all about improved safeguarding of assets with respect to the information, then considering the efficiency, improvise system of effectiveness, improve data integrity. Asset safeguard objectives. So the information system asset of an organization include hardware, software, facilities, people, knowledge, data files, system documentation, supplies, like all the other assets. They must be protected by the system of internal control. Hardware can be damaged maliciously, proprietary software and the contents of data file can be stolen or destroyed. The supplies of negotiable forms can be used for unauthorized purposes. Now these assets are often concentrated in one or a small number of location. Generally आजकल companies अपने लिए they creating a servers or a universal disk where the entire information system, the data with respect to the entire information system is stored, considered as a single disk. As a result, asset safeguarding becomes especially important objective for many organizations to achieve. Now you have the data integrity objectives. Now data integrity is a fundamental concept in information system auditing. It is the state implying data has certain attributes: completeness, soundness, purity, and veracity. If the data integrity is not maintained, an organization no longer has a true representation of itself or events. Now, moreover, if the integrity of the organization data is low, it could suffer from loss of competitive advantages, because the other people who are in the competition, if they might to know the data you own, things can go against the business, which will not be in a positive way for sure. Nonetheless, maintaining data integrity can be achieved only at a cost. The benefits obtained should exceed the cost of the control procedure needed. So investing on data integrity is something which involves cost. Yes, we understand creating a security measure, proper system, server rooms, maintaining an administrator for this, obtaining expertise, knowledge with respect to of these softwares, imparting training to the employees that how they are supposed to use the information technology which is equipped within the organization. So this as the cost should not be considered as one, because it should be considered as investment, because it should make sure कि जो आपके data integrity objective है, it shall consider the benefit which will exceed the cost. More the benefit, less would be the cost, and consider more as a investment. Now, why data integrity is important? Three major factor. The value of data item to organization, and thus importance of maintaining the integrity of data item. First is the value of informational content of data item for individual decision makers. आपके लिए आपका डेटा कितना कंटेंट है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल लेट्स से हम स्कूल में हैं, हम कॉलेज में हैं, हम इंस्टीट्यूट ICSI. नाउ बाय द एंड ऑफ द डे we have certain valuable of data which we carry in a USB, basically a pen drive, or in a hard disk, or on a computer, which is protected through a password that you don't want to share no data with respect to your music files, your personal photographs. For the same, business also have certain information that they do not wish to share, and it also helps them to make the decision. With new strategy and planning of the control mechanism, they have to understand what's the value of data they're about to store within themselves and how it can benefit. But where if it is not stored in a proper way, it might harm the business organization within its structure, internally and externally. So the information content of data item depends upon its ability to change the level of uncertainty surrounding a decision, and as a result change the expected payoff the decision that might made. These notions have been well developed with the statistical decision theory. Statistical theory, obviously business is all about stats, economics, and the business studies we've been through. By the end of the day, if I look forward to आपके जितने भी business decision है, it is factual, it is not exact, but it gives you the nearby vision. Also, it helps you to operate in such a situation where the situation which you were predicting while making the decision, if might go wrong, you have the alternates for it. You have the you have the icebreaker कि by the end of the day अगर आपके पास किसी भी चीज़ के वजह से कोई भी प्रॉब्लम इनकर हो जाती है, जैसा आपने अपना गोल सेट कर रखा है, तो आप उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए पॉसिबली और क्या क्या कर सकते हो. Now the extent to which data item is shared among the decision makers. Now very important, आप हर अपने एम्प्लॉयज़ के साथ सारे डेटा शेयर नहीं करना चाहोगे, because obviously it's not considered to be idle. I must say it's not considered as idle, because if you look forward to it, an employee working at the lower level management will definitely do not need the data with respect to the higher level organization or the top level organization data structure which is being presented to them, because if he has the access to it, you never know the data which is which is being shared to the lower level employee can be used against you. The data can be bought by the external competitors. However, it would be difficult to keep a track of it who actually did it. The reason there is a system audit. Now, if the data is shared, अब आप देखते हो intranet, as we explained in the earlier chapter, intranet was one of the strategy where the company, the employees of the company can access the websites or the data restricted within the organization. Same as done with the extranet. You might can share the data on the personal devices, but again it has certain restriction. It has the proper ID and password which keep the track of the user who is accessing the data, along with the timestamp, along with the activity performed. So there was a proper log being created about it. So if the data is shared, corruption of data integrity affects not just one user but many. The value of data item is some aggregate function of the value of data item to the individual user of data item. Thus, maintenance of data integrity becomes more critical in a shared data environment. Now, the value of data item to competitors. If the data item is valuable to a competitor, its loss might be undermine an organization position in the marketplace. Competitors could exploit informational content data item to reduce profitability of the organization, bring about bankruptcy, liquidation, takeover, or merger, which is a serious concern. Now then, going further, we have the system effectiveness objectives. So by the end of the day, if you look into, so we have the safeguard of asset, improved information efficiency, improved system effectiveness. Then we will go through the integrity. So with respect to system effectiveness objective, effective information system accomplish its objectives. Evaluating the effectiveness implies the knowledge of the user needs. जैसी ज़रूरत वैसा सिस्टम, और आपको ये सारी चीज़ें पहले डिसाइड करनी होंगी that what all you need from your information system. So set your expectations right. Now to evaluate the system reports information in a way that facilitates decision making by its user, auditor must know the characteristics of user and the decision making environment. Effectiveness of auditing often occurs after a system have been running for some time. Management request a post audit to determine whether the system is achieving the stated objectives. Now pre-audit and post-audit, these both are the concern that the first you're setting your expectation right, then the implementation, and then a post-audit to make sure that the objective which has been determined at the pre-stage is being implemented as expected on the post-stage. If not, any alternate you can seek through. Now the evaluation provides input to the decision on whether to scrap the system, continue running it, or modify it in some way. Effectiveness auditing also can be carried out during the design stages of a system. Users often have a difficulty to identifying or agreeing to their needs. Moreover, the substantial communication problem often occur between system designers and the users, just because there is no direct contact. Moreover, the people who are creating this system, the design for your system, has usually to be dealing with the reports and information passed on to the top level management, and they direct it accordingly. And to have a one-on-one with top level management and the system designer is practically not possible, because there are other things which also required to be moved forward. So there might be some lack with the system software, but by the end of the day, just because you're going through the audits and with respect to pre and post, you might overcome it. And obviously change is something which is constant, so they keep on making the information system in a flexible way, so that it might not be rigid. It shall be according to the need of each and every user in the company or organization, be it anywhere, company, firm, sole proprietorship, anywhere. However, that's sole proprietorship, I again say there are very few of them who use such sort of technology. But by the end, if I look forward to, we have this what do we say, softwares like Busy, Tally, which is being used even by the sole proprietorship. However, not much complex system, not costly enough with respect to the large concern, but yes, it is being considered. So if a system is complex, costly to implement, management might want auditors to perform an independent evaluation where the design is likely to fulfill the user need, as I stated earlier. Now we're looking forward to the system efficiency objective. An efficient information system using minimum resources to achieve its required objective. The information systems consume various resources: machine time, people, system, software, and labor. These resources and different application systems usually compete for their use. The question of whether information system is efficient often has no clear-cut answer. So there is no standardized, it is customized and tailor-made. The efficiency of any particular system cannot be considered in isolation from other systems. So while you're creating an information system, do not consider it alone, consider it in a together form, where you consider each and every aspect of the business organization, internally and externally, to stand up to the expectation of the competition, of the employees, of the management, of the middle level management, to utilize it to the optimum level. Now the problem of sub-optimization occur if the one system is optimized at the expense of other सिस्टम, यानी कि आपने एक सिस्टम इतना अच्छा कर दिया कि दूसरे सिस्टम को अपने आप में I mean अपनी, let's say if I have to help someone, I'll compromise on my need to give a better outlook to the third one. Now, for example, minimizing an application system execution time might require a dedication of some hardware resource, let's say printer, to that system. Now the system might not use hardware fully. Printer is just to print, that's not is how will, while it undertakes some work, it will take your job, but by the end of the day you cannot utilize one printer for the entire organization to be done fully. However, you can make that printer connect to the entire network system for to process the data accordingly, but the slack of resources will not be available to the other application system if they're dedicated to one system. अब यही प्रिंटर आपने एक एडमिन पर्पस के लिए डेडिकेट कर रखा है, so there any kind of notice of circular which has to be distributed, आपने कमांड दिया, there is a person dedicated there who will post that notice or the circular to the bulletin board of the company. Now it's not practical and possible every time to have a certain printer dedicated to one system to provide the individuality. However, you can might put the printer to another use to a network, but again you need more resources to make that effective. Now system efficiency becomes especially more important when a computer no longer has excess capacity. The performance of individual application system degrades and user can become increasingly frustrated. Management must decide whether the efficiency improvement extra resources must be purchased or not. So might be let's say there is only one admin printer and it's not shared on the network, just of the fear the employees of the company might not use that printer or that resource for their own good. Now to get the print of anything, of any document important or just for the purpose of going through such document, you need a hard copy. So what you'll do is you need to mail it or you need to carry it on a pen drive. They might not accept pen drive other than what has been provided by the enterprise within itself. Now this can get frustrating, so people will avoid doing the best practice as adopted. So because of extra hardware and software is a cost issue, management needs to know whether the available capacity has been exhausted because individual application systems are inefficient or because existing allocation of computer resources are causing bottlenecks. Because the auditors are perceived to be independent, management might ask them to assist with the or even perform this evaluation. So general objective of system auditing we're going through. So general objectives are as stated: validation of organizational aspects, administration of the information system function. Haji, organizational aspects, what is the need of the organization and the administration of the information server function, functioning and the need, plan and the implementation, then control of such during the system development. Now the next thing is you have to validate the access control, installation, terminal, libraries, etc., which one or so person is about to access through. Automation of internal auditing activities, so keep a track of you're creating such automated control system where it keep on checking, creating the logs of the internal activities which is being performed, which helps you do the auditing. Then you have to impart the internal training to the employees who are supposed to who are going to use such information system. Then you have the training of members of information service function department. The management should be primarily interested in the information system in order to prevent what all. Time is money and development cost, unrealistic or impossible objective to comply with, rigid system when they become operational, non-compliance with the value-added benefits, costly methods and system. So you need to prevent the excessive time wasted and the development cost incurred, the realistic, unrealistic or impossible objectives. which you make it possible. So this system audit helps the management has to consider. And with respect to further things, any non-compliance which is being value added benefit and the cost management methods and systems, so you keep a track of it. The lack of control involves many risks. Some system fail because of the following. So अब क्या वजह है कि information technology it's not able to perform as per your needs. Technical capacity नहीं है आपके पास, management support नहीं है, inexperience of employee, lack of training, unrealistic expectation or wrong orientation. Unrealistic expectations, हमने system audit, आपने system information system आपने ऐसा create कर रखा है जहाँ पे एम्प्लॉयज़ के एक्सपेक्टेशंस कुछ और आपके एम्प्लॉयज़ से एक्सपेक्टेशन कुछ और हैं. सो दे आर नॉट मीटिंग एनी वे, दे आर पैरेलल. कि जैसे आप अपने एक्सपेक्टेशन बना रहे हो, वो भी अपने एक्सपेक्टेशन बना रहे हैं, बट दे आर गोइंग टू अ डिफरेंट रूट, दे आर नेवर गोइंग टू मैच. नाउ इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम ऑडिट प्लान. To approach information system, a plan has to be developed, similar to the one used in financial auditing. Some of the tasks involved are as follow: definition of scope and objectives, analysis and understanding the standard procedures, evaluation of system internal controls, audit procedures and documentation of evidence, analysis of facts encountered, formation of opinion over the control, presentation of report and recommendations. Now, one of the most difficult thing in drawing the information audit plan is to determine the objective and the scope, how wide is going to be. As a guidance, these are the few variables while you're considering the system audit you need to take into the control. So पहला है extension and scope of financial audit taking place, duration, nature of internal and external audit, dimension of installation, level of complexity, level of both centralization, distribution system and integration of database. So you need to check what's the level of centralization, what is the level of server base and the distribution through this server, and the integration the data which has been the server as a database. Now the extension procedure and norms for developing and production environment, foundation of information system auditing. Let's see. Information system auditing is just not simple extension of traditional auditing. Recognition of the need of an information system and audit function comes from two directions. The first, auditor realize the computer has affected their ability to perform the test function. So the system being compromised with their performance, what they're supposed to perform, it's not performing now. And second, both corporate and information system management recognize that computer were valuable resources that need controlling like any other key resources within the organization. So पहला जो आपकी पॉइंट आया वो था कि कंप्यूटर्स के जो परफॉर्मेंस एवेलुएशन है उसमें कमी आई है. दूसरी चीज़, मैनेजमेंट हैज़ टू रिकग्नाइज कि जस्ट लाइक अदर एसेट्स इन द कंपनी, इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम ऑल्सो रिक्वायर्ड अ प्रॉपर कंट्रोल. Now this is a chart, and I love institute books because they provide charts. It's more of self-study and it's universal. So they are using information technology in a very good way. So the discipline of information auditing has been shaped by knowledge obtained from 4 other disciplines which are being described below. Is traditional auditing, computer science, behavioral science, information system management, foundation of information system audit. Now with respect to the foundation of system audit, traditional auditing brought into information system auditing a wealth of knowledge and experience with internal control techniques. This knowledge and experience has an impact on the design, both manual and machine components of information system. For example, In a computer system, critical activities such as data preparation activities are often critical component of the system. As with the manual system, these activities should be subject to internal control principles such as separating incompatible duties, having competent and trustworthy personnel, establishing clear definition of duties. By applying these principles, management seeks to ensure that the integrity of data is maintained before it's entered into computer-based components of the information system. Similarly, traditional auditing concepts like control totals are also relevant to update the maintenance of files by computer programs. Computer programs must ensure that all transaction data are processed and what they are processed correctly. Control totals have had long standing use in information system because these concerns also exist when human rather than the programs update and maintain files. The general methodologies for evidence of collection and evidence of evaluation used by the information system auditors are also based on the traditional auditing methodologies. The long evaluation of an extensive experience gained in traditional auditing highlight the critical importance of having objective, verifiable evidence and independent evaluation of information system. Perhaps the most important traditional auditing brings to information system auditing a control philosophy. It is difficult to articulate the nature of this philosophy. One can glean elements, however, by reading auditing literature or examining the work of auditors. The philosophy involves examining the information system with a critical mind, always with a view to questioning the capability of information system to safeguard assets, maintain data integrity, and achieve its objective efficiently and effectively. So by the entire paragraph, what I got to know is traditional auditing is basically it is auditing of information system with the knowledge and experience of internal control techniques. It can be done, it is design of both manual and machine components of an information system, which is very true. While you have this internal control mechanisms which audits the register, the hard copy register which you maintain by writing on it, and some of them are transferred to the computer information system. But before they are being transferred, you have to make sure that the internal control mechanism are that sufficient that you can audit the manual as well as the soft copy which has been entered to the information system. So the data integrity, efficiency, effectiveness and proper decision making can only be done if they are properly tied up with. Now with respect to clerical activities, data representation, these are critical. The reason being that is कि आप जैसे ही ये information system अपने information जैसे ही आप अपने systems में enter करते हो, all things have been carried down to at such a level where through these reports and information, the management at the top level management, they get aware about the situations within the organization, and if the data has been prepared with respect to any external data or survey being collected, how reliable is that? So it makes sure that the integrity of data is maintained before it's entered to the computer-based components. Now, with respect to traditional auditing concepts, like people are being specified about the duty, the data they're supposed to collect it, the accuracy. Now, with the methodologies of collecting for the data, evaluating and evidencing such, everything is based on traditional auditing methodologies. Now, most traditional ways are like they don't have a specific set or specific base where you can start objectifying that what all you need to check, what all should be the situation where you are supposed to check the integrity of the data, maintain the data or evaluate the data accordingly. However, information system shall be able to safeguard your asset, maintain your data integrity and achieve its objectives efficiently and effectively. Now, moving further, we have information system management. The early history of computer-based information system shows some of the spectacular disaster, massive cost overrun occurred, and many systems failed to achieve their stated objective. As a result, for many years, researchers have been concerned with identifying better ways of managing the development and implementation of information system. Some important advances have been made. For example, techniques of project management have been carried into information system with considerable success. Documentation, standards, budget, variance investigation are now emphasized. Now, the better way of developing and implementing system have been developed. For example, object-oriented analysis, design, programming have enabled programmers to develop software faster with fewer errors and easier maintenance characteristics. Now, these advances affect information system auditing because the ultimately effect is the asset safeguard, data integrity, system effectiveness and efficiency objectives. So by the end of the day, if I summarize everything up, computer information system management, this is talk with respect to the computers. Earlier there been disasters with respect to the cost being occurred, and there was no positive outflow from it. However, many systems are used to make sure that the project situations like project management, where it's been carried on the on account of information system, is a success right now. Apart from that, many management information system with respect to documentation, presentations and statistical analysis are being carried out through the information system. However, it's being developing day by day. Changes is constant, so we are considering it. Now, the next is behavioral science. Behavioral science is all about human nature. So computer system fail because their designer do not appreciate the difficult human issues that are often associated with the development and implementation of system. Now, example, behavioral resistance to an information system can seriously undermine efforts to meet the asset safeguarding, data integrity, system effectiveness and system efficiency objective. Disgruntled user could try to sabotage the system or circumvent controls. Similarly, designers and users could have difficulty communicating with one another because they have different conception of the meaning inherent in the application domain. Because of these difficulty, a system requirement might be poorly formulated. The auditors must understand the condition that can lead to behavioral problems and, as a result, possible system failure. Behavioral scientists, especially the organization theorists, have contributed much to our understanding of people problems that can arise with the organization. For some time, several researchers have been applying the findings of organization theory to information system development and implementation. Now, for example, researchers now emphasize the need for a system designer to consider concurrently the impact of computer system on task accomplishment, the technical system, and the quality of work-life person, the social system within the organization. So, with respect to the behavioral science, organization who are actually operating, they need to understand the need of employee as well as the developers who are trying to create an efficient software. It is a very high possibilities that the way the system software is being designed and the way the organization employees are expecting it to be, it might be a huge gap between both of them. So to club them together, they need to understand the behavioral aspect, because you can create an information system way too big, way too easy, and way too user friendly. But by the end of the day, if the designer do not consider the user, it's a total failure. So the thing which is highlighted, which is, for example, some researchers now emphasize the need for an information system designer to consider the concurrently impact of computer system on task accomplishment. Now, designers who are actually designing the software, creating the information system environment for the people who are about to use it, they need to make sure that the technical system is based on the present scenario, user friendly, and the quality of work life of person, the social system, stays within the organization. Now, in order to emphasize the need of information systems, designers to understand how users socially construct the meaning of domains which they work. That's very important. The meaning of the domain which they work. Then you have computer science. Computer scientists also have been concerned how the SS safeguarding, data integrity, system effectiveness, and system efficiency objective might be better achieved. For example, they have constructed research how to prove the correctness of software formally. But fault-tolerant computer system design, secure operating system, transmit data security across the communications link. The in-depth technical knowledge that has been developed within the discipline of computer science provides that both benefits problem for auditors to work. On the other hand, they can now be less concerned about the reliability of certain components in computer system. On the other hand, if the technical knowledge is used improperly, they might have difficulty detecting the abuse. For example, now the skilled system programmer decides to report a fraud. It might be almost impossible for the auditor to detect the fraud unless they have extensive knowledge of the information technology. So computer science, it's all about the knowledge for a person with respect to the computer systems. It gives a benefit as well as a disadvantages with respect to such, because by the end of the day, if you know a computer system and you're well off with the knowledge, you need not to be stressed down on a certain training. But by the end of the day, if you look forward to it, you can, being a tech savvy, you can also consider the improper use of your knowledge. So for an auditor, it is obviously it will get difficult where the task which is being performed by the tech savvy person to implement the data or any with respect to fraud, it's hard to detect. Nature, significance and scope of system audit. Now, nature of system audit. It has been practiced in industry to carry out financial, managerial and technical audits. The oldest, most prevalent audit has been financial audit, which we've been aware for quite a lot of time. So traditionally, financial auditors have been going to the paper-based book of accounts. They have been focusing mainly on ensuring internal control, compliance with the law and laws of the land, and thereby going for good governance. The managerial audit has been focusing on basic management policy practices, COC, internal mechanism control that makes sure it is in good shape, has a good process, feedback framework, effectiveness and performance. Now, technical audit focusing more on shop floor details where the manufacturing and maintenance of function are being performed efficiently and correctly. With the increase in use of computer-based system in the enterprise, the complexity of system and risk of errors, sabotage and fraud have been increased manifold. In a network setup, the transaction is initiated in a physically different location, posted in the book elsewhere in the management information aggregated from the data we'd for somewhere else. Because of the number of agencies involved, increased risk exposure of mechanized system is no longer sufficient to go by audit of the book-based accounts. One has to see the vulnerability of IT set up to external crackers and hackers. So information system obviously has a good advantage, but again it is risky because the number of people, the data is being processed through a number of intermediaries. Now they can use the data for their personal benefit. Errors might be hard to find, or it could be used for the purpose of fraud. And the number of agencies involved, they have to make sure that there is no risk exposure of the machinized systems and no longer sufficient to go by auditing body just by the books. Now one has to see the information system which is set up, which is that much secure, which can block the crackers and hackers from your computer. So there is an example of a company which co-hosted a server in the data center of a service provider. The necessary security precautions were not taken. As a result, cracker could get into the mailing system and use the server to send unsolicited spam mail to the tens of thousands of addresses over the world. The identity of the server figured in the entire watchdog list of the internet. So the result was several sites was blocked, server isolated from the rest of the world. The company was forced to request the service provider to give a new set of IP address. So it's a huge crash by the end of the day. It had to hire expert on emergent basis to reinstall the servers after plugging into security loopholes. In the process, that has suffered a weak isolation from outside the world. After reinstallation, it took another 72 hours for the site to remove the name of the site in their blacklist. So just because there was no security on the information system, look at the disaster. 72 hours to unblock the sites, spam mails. What a bizarre. So conventional audit would not normally address such issue. The nature of system audit, unlike the other audit, do not restrict audit to report items only, has to take into the cognizance of the choice, use and risk of technology, has to look the reality of the business and constantly changing legal framework. And the next you have is significance of system audit. The significance, the importance, it's sharply highlighted by the way the business are changing. For any business, for profit, non-profit to survive, it must have an adequate information system technology in place. How to know that system is secured and when audit is carried on the system. In a nutshell, the world would be free place if we have the assurance that the information, trade secrets, private information, personal identity, etc. are safe. Hence, the importance of auditing an information system. The system audit is mainly getting importance for various reasons, but few of them explained as below. So these are the few information, the importance. So ensure the security of information. Obviously, it is your vital asset that needs to be seriously secured for face consequence not doing so. Information security has become so vital that many large organizations have full-fledged department that handles the inflow and outflow of information. Information security is not about securing data in your warehouse. It goes just beyond that. By information security audit, the activities of actors in the information domain needs to be monitored more than ever. The advent of mobile computing, smartphone created a new loophole in the business for handling information, which information audit must track down and proffer solution to. आपका पर्सनल डेटा सिक्योर करने के अलावा भी काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें हैं जो सिस्टम सिक्योरिटी में कंसीडर करी जाती हैं, भी उसका आईपी एड्रेस हो गया, भी उसके सर्वर्स हो गए. आप देखते हो कितनी सारी शॉपिंग वेबसाइट पे आप अपने क्रेडिट कार्ड डिटेल्स डाल के सेव कर देते हो या डेबिट कार्ड डिटेल्स डाल के सेव कर देते हो. दे हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट दीज डिटेल्स शुड नॉट बी कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड ऑन एनी कॉस्ट. How to filter out the noise in system. Noise in system is something very interesting. It is the if I talk about the noise, it's something which creates the obstacle in transmission of data. थोड़ा सा Google करते हैं and I can explain it better. नॉइज सिस्टम बेसिकली आपके जो डेटा ट्रांसमिशन के बीच में जो ऑब्स्टिकल्स वगैरह आते हैं, बेसिकली इलेक्ट्रॉनिक जब आप काम कर रहे होते हो तो उसमें प्रॉब्लम आती है, और जो डिस्टर्बेंस होता है दैट इज नोन एज नॉइज इन द सिस्टम. सी so noise generated by electronic devices varies greatly as it produces several different effects. In communication system, noise is an error for undesired random disturbance of useful information signal. The noise is a simulation or unwanted disturbing energy from natural, sometimes man-made resources. So by the information which I have seeked from Google, it makes noise is something which can cause mistakes, misunderstandings, misrepresentation of facts, which has proved to be fatal over a period of time. It is by auditing system can carries the information flow that noise are identified, corrective actions are taken either to remove or ameliorate their effects on the organization. Third is building confidence and public reputation, which is very much important. The general public would rather go with a secured system with a lesser benefit than with a unsecured system with more benefits. This is more pronounced the world business and investment where investors seek the safety of their capital first before the profit. So this is the rational thing to do, as the number of investing and financial management is to ensure the safety of your capital. The general idea behind from any auditing of any kind is to render the credibility to a piece of information. Now, the role of information auditing also include improving the general standard of living in an economy through adequate information audit, treats human lives and properties are identified and removed if possible. This will also a long way prevent the cycle global financial crisis that will face these days. So building reputation is again by the fact we know that, let's just say I have this website. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So every one of us is aware about this. Now this website, if I see, you have the login, sign up, then you have the offer zone, book furniture, everything, the stock, the price details. Moreover, this website people do trust. Now they will go for a page where they have a secured system. Flipkart, I believe it is safe with respect to the secured system. We consider, if I help you with a random website and ask you to enter your card detail and save it for the later use, you might not do it, or you might not even transact on that. But where if I give you a reliable source, you'll definitely go for it, irrespective of the benefit you're getting, because just because you're getting the security. Now, scope of information system audit, kitna wide? It covers the entire information system management process. The scope includes review the entire design development process, review of technology choice, the process employed, assess the risk and losses that could accrue to the system, the possibility of computer frauds taken in the managing changes to the system, existent of testing and reliability of system. It also covers senior management involvement, review applicable minutes, network, workstation, internet, disaster recovery and other IT security policies. Overall, security procedures, segregation of information technology duties, internal quality, internal controls, data communication, user identification, authorization, user level of accessibility, restricted transaction activity and exception reports, backup procedures, other operations, security control, insurance coverage, network securities including the internet, internal auditing procedures, contingency plan, disaster recovery, internet security procedure, vendor due diligence. For everything I have read, this website holds most preferable, most considered. So even if you have this, let's say, just a minute. Now, the page itself give you the information that just to make sure that your data is not compromised, it gives you the identity on the website. You can do the transaction and the activity logs are being created, जिसमें आप जैसे order history वगैरह सारी check करते हो. Also helps you audit. अब ये information system is not somewhat threat or anything, but if I talk about कि मान लो अगर मैं अपने सिस्टम में इसी वेबसाइट पे, let's say I'm clicking on a camera right now, so it's been updated. All right, so this is the database and the product information, price and everything. How about I can hack through the system without making the payment? I can order a camera. It is the compromising of data. So data is the scope of system audit. It considers that what all security pressure, disaster recovery, internal, external, insurance coverage, information which only you can seek and information which none other than you can seek. So let's say अगर मैं अपनी आईडी से लॉगिन करके आपके आईडी का एक्सेस मेरे को आ जाता है, it can be a bizarre Trust me. Now, information system audit process. Information system audit is an evaluation of adequacy control in computerized environment. Controls can be classified as under, which are verified by the information system auditor. A management control, security and policy standards, constitution of steering committee, business continuity planning, system development, methodology. So इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम ऑडिट प्रोसेस में आपकी क्या क्या चीज़ें कंसीडर करी जाएगी? पहले तो मैनेजमेंट, ऑपरेशनल, ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल एंड एप्लीकेशन कंट्रोल. सो मैनेजमेंट कंट्रोल में आपकी सिक्योरिटी पॉलिसी स्टैंडर्ड्स चेक करेंगे, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ द स्टीयरिंग कमिटी विद रिस्पेक्ट टू सच, business continuity planning and system development methodology. How do you develop your systems to work on IS? And then you have the monitoring controls with which is under operation. So monitoring of physical assets, ensuring adequate environment such as air conditioning, dust temperature, power conditioning, UPS functioning. This is with respect to the servers. The servers, the place where the servers are kept, you are able to track all these things. Then the next thing is to organizational controls. Is the role being defined, responsibilities of the user department and the IT department has been taken into consideration and well explained. Defining the roles and responsibility and duties of it, then IT departments such as developer, operators and administrators. So तीन जगह डिवाइड करा हुआ है IT डिपार्टमेंट को, एक डेवलपर्स, दूसरे ऑपरेटर और तीसरे हैं आपके एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर. नेक्स्ट थिंग यू हैव दी एप्लीकेशन controls. So each output computer system must have its own set of control inputs, processing outputs. Processing control should also ensure the check of legal compliance. While performing the audit, each of the control needs to be studied for its existence and adequacy. Okay, so with respect to security policy standard audit of management, under audit of management control, first is security policy standards. So the information system auditor should first verify whether the organization has a security policy. If it does not exist, the auditor needs to point this out. Unless the management has a corporate information system security policy and follows the standard implementation of such across all the units and division. If a security policy exists, it needs to be examined for the currency and adequacy in proportion to the risk. The security policy has to be always in dynamically updated. Then you have the steering committee for security. The formulation and implementation of a sound security policy should not be the handiwork of just the IT department. It should be the team effort brought into the effected by committee in which there's at least one member of the board of directors apart from the CIO and user whole HODs. The auditor should point out the absence of such committee. Without such committee having a regular planned meetings with agenda and action points, the implementation of security policy would be in jeopardy. The auditor needs to stress upon the possible benefits of a properly functioning steering committee, or conversely, the benefits of not having such a committee. In recommending the constitution and functioning of the committee, the auditor should be specific about the composition, individual role and responsibility, and monitoring escalating mechanism. So this committee will look into the information system over the organization. The committee is must. The business continuity planning is a very important aspect of IS. It encompasses all the aspects that can result in usage discontinuity. A simple example. Let us say that the company has 3 servers connected to a single UPS. The UPS is not under annual maintenance contract. Its batteries may be dying out. Since there is no mechanism to look into the health of the UPS, it can go down without a warning, resulting server tripping. So all the work halts till the UPS can be set right. If such a catastrophe occurs in a remote place, then the time to repair or replace a UPS can be longer. Is the IS auditor should examine all such possibility when by which the availability of computer systems is threatened with temporary or permanent breakdown in sensitive areas. Even proofing against mob violence, terrorist strike should be kept in view. Then you have is the system development methodology, I guess how it is. Anyway, so in most of the companies, system development is badly handled and a proper documentation is not being maintained. The code is developed in a great hurry and control aspects are given to the go by. The accuracy of the processing and the legal compliances are left as open question. Now what they need to verify as the IS auditor is the following document exists or not: functional requirement specification, software requirement specification, design description, software code, test plan, unit test results, integration test result, acceptance test result. All have been discussed later. The documentation should be properly cross-indexed. Effect of the change made should be well understood. It should not happen that due to ignorance of the entirety of the business process and its ramification, a change made in one area affects other area, that too after a lapse of time. Every time there's a change made through, testing should be done and documented. The IAS auditor should get necessary evidence and comment on the lack of proper adherence to procedures. So above we have the 3 audit of the management controls. So मैनेजमेंट कंट्रोल में अपने सिक्योरिटी पॉलिसी स्टैंडर्ड्स आपको कंस्ट्रक्ट करने हैं कंपनी में. स्टीयरिंग कमेटी होनी चाहिए. विल लुक इनटू द IS monitoring and functioning, and within respect to business continuity planning, you need to have the proper update with respect to any kind of hardware changes or any kind of repair maintenance. It has to be contracted. Apart from that, system development methodology shall be unified, will be on a similar way and a similar pace to all of the branches. If there is a huge organization or if there is any multiple or branches of organization shall be updated accordingly. There should not be a difference or a time slab between any one of them. Then while you are applying any system development, so you should need to make sure that what's the function requirement, software design, what's the software code, how the test plan go through, what are the results, integration test and acceptance. Apart from that, any kind of test plans which has been run, इसकी आपको proper documentation required होगी. Now the request of the audit of operational control. Now for the operational controls, like taking a scenario here. So the auditor should observe the operation and comment on the drawbacks. Some of the possible scenarios are: anybody who walks into the server room has access to the document media machines. Operational control. Some of the possible scenario which creates the need. कोई भी आपके सर्वर रूम में जाके मीडिया वगैरह हैक कर ले. Backup the media not labeled properly, kept under a lock and a key. One set up the backup not regularly kept at another location. No documented and organized channel of control process. Software data are arbitrarily changed. Correction of errors not done by the reversal entry by running dangerous script on the database backend. Administrator password freely floating around the user, developer, operation staff, administrator. So authority दी नदी बराबर हो गया. सबके पास admin access है, can fuss around with the system. Dirty network cabling with loose cable hanging around, crumble cables not tagged for easy identification is a problem. Switches hub lying loose on the table, hanging on the walls. Data control not properly checked in file. Preventive maintenance of servers not done. Machine working with covers kept off. वही साइड में CPU की साइड की लिड हटा के काम चल रहा है. Not acceptable. Media not properly labeled and recorded in media registered. Absence of gate pass culture. Machine arbitrarily taken from into computer rooms. Unknown and untrusted floppy directly used without checking for viruses. The above scenarios speak of the very casual IT setup. Such carelessness can result in serious downtime. Sensitive data can be pilfered from the servers, and the IS auditor needs to highlight these flaws. Serious lapse. Environmental control के aspects में देखते हैं. Now, what all need to be checked by the auditor? Online UPS not used, either line interactive or offline UPS used or CVT used. Line interactive UPS, offline UPS or CVT. ठीक है, no worries. So inline interactive UPS, let me show you. So while both UPS provide full protection from major power problems such as surges, spikes, tags, blackouts, brownouts, they differ in few significance. Simply to put, an online UPS offer higher level of protection than a line interactive at a higher cost. अब लाइन इंटरैक्टिव यूपीएस में आपको शो करता हूँ, और लाइन इंटरैक्टिव है ये. These are the line interactive UPS. Yeah, here it is. So instead of using this, or offline UPS use or CVTs use. CVT UPS. CVT, even I don't know what exactly it is. This is a CVT. Yeah. I believe these are the stabilizer transformers. These are being used. So ये सारी चीज़ों की जगह आप would be more preferred आप online UPS ना use करके you use these UPS. Electric cabling loose, point have loose contract, no separate earth pit for the computer equipment. Earthing बहुत important है. Switches, hub, routers not feed up UPS power. Server room door kept open, कोई भी आके access करे. Air conditioner not functioning properly, especially in summers. Winter air conditioner set at 29 degrees Celsius instead of 22 degrees Celsius. No pest control. E-tables taken to the server room. Smoking in the server room. Heavy duty printer kept inside the server room. Scope of dust. UPS, AC, other electricals not under regular annual maintenance contract. No genset backup case city power supply fails for long hour. No smoke detectors, fire alarms in the server room area. Fire extinguishers are not kept file and ready. No fire drill carried out to make the people aware of the do and don'ts. ये सारी चीज़ें is under audit of environmental control. Organizational control के expect में it is so there needs to be an effective organizational chart for IT function. In some organization, IT is treated as a technical job. A very junior person is made the head of IT. He or she will be unable to hold its own when the powerful function hits, as the finance head or the production head keeps breathing fire. It's the best to have IT function reporting to the CEO. The head of IT is a chief information officer. The CIO should have 3 reportee managers, 1 taking care of the development team, 1 for ensuring information system, IT center security, and other managing facilities, that is operations, maintenance of hardware, software, database administration, vendor management, service provider. It is advisable not to club information security with operations or development. The IS auditor should look into for a succession plan for the information management team. The main concern here is that a few person may be knowing that in and outs of the software, which is very true. They may be fixed problem because of their deep down knowledge of the code. Other than in their minds, there is no documentation of what they know. Either because of their leaving the organization for their disgruntlement, may not be keeping doing the good work. Such event would compromise the functioning of the system. An emergent solution to the problem may be very expensive. The IS auditor should check for clear-cut definition of user role, IT role, so that there are no ambiguous overlaps. For example, it should be clear that the wage administration section would advise tax rate charges, etc., to the development and maintenance member concerned. Under formal authorization of the user head of department, such changes should be carried out. Deciding which data should be kept and which should not be kept is the responsibility of the user and not of the IT department. Making a final pronouncement of the correctness of processing by software is again concerned the user department responsibility. So roles or responsibility defined karna is a need. With respect to the data being important or not, that has to be considered by the people of different department who are using such developed softwares, and has nothing to do with the IT department. So there are companies in which there is no specifically duty allocation to IT staff members. This is not desirable since everybody escapes accountability. One of the section of IT department must take the responsibility for developing and maintenance of the software. They should have nothing to do with the hardware and keep system network and database administration. They should be looked after by another set of people. System security was earlier the purview of system administration staff. Given the increased dependence on computer system and the ever increasing security risk, it is necessary to ensure that no person who has execute responsibility should have to do anything with the audit type of function. So जिसने अपनी responsibility being an executive of the company perform करी है, they cannot do be the auditor for such function which they perform. This is the reason why security audit system should be responsibility of different section. This group needs to be very good technical knowledge of IT and security risk. It would not only audit the report findings to the management without getting into actual solution implementation. Any deviation in this regard needs to be pointed out by the IS auditor, including impact analysis. Now, the steps involved in conducting audit. The steps involved in conducting information audit. The first one is previewing the environment. The auditor must understand which applications are running on what machines. On which machines. He or she must be the IT users to get a complete picture. And she meets the the department, the development and maintenance staff as well as the facility management. As facilities management people, in case of auditor decide to use any audit software, she must decide whether the given environment would support it. She must also assess her or his own technical knowledge specific to whether the system environment would support it. She or he must also assess his or her own technical knowledge specific to the system and enhance the necessity. So you need to understand the objectives of the information audits, terms and the areas such covered in the past, areas to be revisited, define the scope clearly, gathers the necessary background information through interviewing the people concerned. Understanding the information system. Auditors should go through the system documentation to understand the overall framework and individual subsystems. She or he should start with input originating in the user department and walk through the entire system to understand how it get processed. Any deficiencies or hurdle faced, such as non-availability of the documentation, should be straight away recorded. The auditor then makes his or her own short notes on the system functioning. Particular attention is to be given to the control aspects such as assuring completeness of inputs, correctness of inputs, how correctness of processing is ensured, and how completeness and correctness of reports, especially the infrequent but important ones. The job of understanding application system can be made easier and faster by preparing a flow chart and verifying the same. So understand the deficiency, hurdles faced, non-availability of the documentation. You need to look forward for control expects, assuring the completeness of inputs, correcting of inputs, how the correctness of being the inputs which you are processing is ensured that shall be complete. Apart from that, the major role is that you need to understand the application system made easier and faster preparing by the flow chart. So आप अपने ये audit conduct करने से पहले be preferable अगर आप एक flow chart prepare कर लेंगे, so you would be able to decide and process easily. Now identifying the audit risk. Now what all the risk you have to go through. So context of audit system are of two kind. Risk of loss, non-compliance with the loss, which arise from system and its usage. Detection, risk arising out of the inadequacies, problems in the audit process itself. The first task before the auditor is to assess the risk and prioritize the same. The commonly associated risks are unreasonable processing. Example, आपके पास एक system है which has set the salary rate of peon higher than that of general manager. I mean, which is not possible. So आपके system इतने self stable और self knowledgeable होने चाहिए कि अगर आप कोई salary rate या peon वगैरह की डाल रहे हो, so it should be a between certain range, उस range के beyond नहीं होना चाहिए. Repetition of error. So one error in the processing logic leads to the large volume of error. So एक गलती और सारे डेटा को खराब कर सकती है. Cascading, double effect errors. In the integrated system, the output of one such system go to the input as to another, and so on. So propagation of error system from one system can thus cascade into several errors linked in the subsystem. It has to be looked into. Then you have the incorrect data entry. While amounts and other numerical entry may be brought under the purview of control, hashed totals thus detected entry such product type, which may determine the excise duties, sales, tax, etc., can only be detected if the code is out of the range or of a different type. So if A and B are valid codes and B is enter for A, then error should be, then the error could go unnoticed. यानी कि कई आपने जो कोड डालना था वो डालना था आपने B, तो B की जगह जैसे ही आपने A प्रोसेस करा एक्सेप्ट कर लेगा, बट एरर कंसीडर हो जाएगा वहाँ पे, क्योंकि आगे के जो डेटा है वो इस एंट्री की बेस पे प्रोसेस होंगे. नाउ द कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ कंट्रोल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इन द मैनुअल सिस्टम, सेम ट्रांजेक्शन इज सीन बाय द सेवरल पर्सन, increasing of chances of detection of error in information systems. Since so much data is integrated process like place, error and control has to be more rigorous. The next step to see which risk can have a serious adverse outcome, higher priority to them. Some of the risks may be travel and hence dropped from the list. So आपके audit risk में risk of loss, detection of risk, unreasonable processing, repetition, cascading, incorrect data entry, concentration of control responsibility. Now you have to identify the audit evidence. So the information system auditor has to make exhaustive list of evidence in the form of flowchart and the risk analysis. The audit evidence then documented in terms of medium of data or data format, structure, database, use, backup period, frequency of update, etc. Now this would enable the auditor to decide on the methodology to be used for verifying the veracity of evidence. Fifth is identify the key control points. I believe upar wala is there's nothing to explain. So I'm moving to the fifth one. So based on risk prioritization, the auditor looks into for those control points that control the maximum risk. Now this is not an easy task, since there are very many technical function factors to be understood before the key control points can be pinned down. The risks range from human error to programming to as well as international fraud. So what would be your control points has to be decided after a effective study. Identifying the control weakness. So it's quite possible the control may be leaving the door open for some loss to occur. For example, checking whether amount is filled is numeric below 9999999 and the value does not eliminate the possibility of 89 being entered as 98. So it's basically an entry error. So takes an example where the clerk raises a requisition and the officer approves it. The office may be loaded with other work. So he gives his or her password to the clerk and asks the clerk to enter the approved transaction. देख लो जी, क्लर्क को आप इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम एक्सेस दे रहे हो और आप वो कह रहे हो कि कोई रिक्वेजिशन है और ऑफिसर ने अप्रूव कर दिया और क्लर्क को बोला है कि आप अपनी रिक्वेजिशन खुद डाल देना, मैं आपको अपना आईडी और पासवर्ड डाल देता हूँ. नाउ clerk is not being knowledgeable can commit serious mistakes. The system assumes that the approver has been sent out respect of the transaction before approval except the same. The reason it's said कि आप अपने ID password share ना करें. So they are like toothbrush to you. You don't want to share your toothbrush with anyone. Now verifying the veracity of computer files. Let us take an example. In a fertilizer company, the price of sulfur has been erroneously taken as the price of DAP. The error goes unnoticed because the hash total was also based on the wrong price. The errors detected when MIS report reveals the loop-sided cost. The error is manually corrected on the cost sheet, but the system still carries the error. In short, the auditor had to start the user output that was corrected and come back to the computer files. So बीच में तो पकड़ नहीं आएगा, but हाँ कुछ फाइल्स में वेरिफिकेशन हो जाता है. जैसे ही आपको वेरीफाई मिल जाए, then you need to reach back the origin of such error. The auditor should also look for the correction directly made in the database without correcting the transaction files. Then you need to conduct the test. So conclude that there is a possibility that control do not detect certain type of problem. In such cases, auditor calculates the correct result for correct data and passes the same through system. Computer programs may also be used for this purpose. This results are compared and conclusions are drawn. Conducting the audit. The tasks involved in conducting the audit are develop finding, highlighting facts against which standard finding have been made, and impact analysis कि उस wrongdone से क्या क्या impact पड़े हैं. Develop audit recommendation that will be best mitigate the risk of existing circumstances. Write the audit report highlighting the above. The last step to have a meeting with the management representative who will implement the finding and records the action points of the next audit review. Now, yes, you have the system audit management function. So if you look the time honor management pyramid. So strategic decisions, information flows, tactical information flow, and the operational. So strategic, tactical, and operational. इसके बीच में information कैसे flow हो रही है? What is the procedure? Will be through. So the business information with respect to the external aspects. Now here. Company secretary is a person intended to ensure compliance of law affecting the work of a company, formalizing business transaction. She or he is therefore required to possess special knowledge of the computer, various corporate laws, rules made thereon. Apart from the shareholders and director, normally the company communicates with the outside world through its company secretary. Broadly, company secretary is required to work threefold fashion. Let's see. Link between BODs, shareholders, government regulatory authority, and all the stakeholders. True. Ensures the board procedures follow and regularly reviews to provide guidelines to the guidance to the chairman and the director of their responsibility under various roles. Commands high position in the value chain and acts conscience seeker of the company. So the company secretary, being multidisciplinary profession, renders the service in varied areas. Actual practices can be seen by the company secretary function requires substantial summary of information from all existing system. For instance, compliance with the law of land does not involve compliance with company law. There are so other legal aspects such as labor, pollution, industrial safety, FEMA, MRTP, etc. Since the company secretary represents the board of directors, she or he has to wide angle with the view through the information received server system, whether computerized or not. The system audit of computerized secretarial function. The procedure to be followed performing system audit remains the same, irrespective of functionality. The testing of application control alone varies. System audit consists of evaluating the following: management control, environmental control, organization control, and application control. Otherwise, three of them we have studied earlier, but with respect to secretarial function, they can look into. Now, the present era, most of the secretarial process of a company are either computerized or handled by special agency, that is depositories, stock transfer agent. In this scenario, company secretary has a wider role to play. To get ease about the system operation, he verifies the presence of necessary control system and procedures. For verifying the presence of necessary control system in the system and process, first the auditor needs to review the system development methodology adopted. System development methodology adopted in developing the system process for secretarial function would have to be verified for the following: are the best practices being followed for the development of program, and whether the librarian having the records of various version of program. For example, we need to verify the version of number of dividend warrant preparation in the program. So the purpose of verifying the version number is to ensure that the live environment only the correct latest version of the program is used. So what you need to understand is, let's say, how much number of dividend warrants is required to be issued. So to verify that you have the exact number, the program shall be updated with respect to the database and the processing of the same. Also, verifying the procedure for change management will assure that the change to programs are made done only under specific authorization of the user, endorsed by the appropriate authority within the computer department. Verifying procedures become all the more important if the dividend warrant processing is given to the third parties. The control practice followed by the third party service provider should be verified, having the verified management control, environmental control, organizational control. The further steps to be followed while performing system auditing of dividend preparation application would be the following. Now, verification of input control. So talk में the 3 points. First, we are taking an example for issue of the dividend warrant. A dividend warrant, you need the data that has to be updated, the program which can ensure the number of dividend warrant requires to be issued. Now, in case if there are any change in the management with respect to the program, it should be authenticated by the user SNI. It should not be like that कि आपका जैसे personal computer use करते हो, anyone can put anything into and you're updating the software. No, there needs to be authorization for update even of a software. Without a proper authorization, you need to make sure there should be before the user enter any kind of third-party software on the computer, there has to be an authorization within the computer department, and verifying procedure is the most important.
in the case if you have allotted this information system to the third party to look forward for your company. Control practices, management, environmental organization controls, they have to look into in the following aspects. So verification of input control. After verifying the system development methodology, the Secretarial audit should verify input control in the system and procedures developed for computerized secretarial function. The input would consist of the details of various shareholders. The master data would contain the name, address, nominee, joint account holding details, income tax status. Before dividend warrant application program could be run in a live environment, the step would be taken to ensure that all master records have been corrected up to the including share transfers as approved by share transfer meeting. Also, all the correspondence received regarding the change of address, income tax status, etc. The first and the initial input control would be to run the data file of the shareholder and obtain the total of the shareholding to ensure that it is equal to the subscribed share capital. An error that is the stage would indicate some wrong correction have been made to master data, like transfer details would have been included and the transfer detail might not have been deleted, or when the transfer effected as a part transfer, suitable correction might have not been effected. So these are certain situations and the scenarios which can happen. So there is a needed of the information system to get updated in appropriate time. So generally every time share transfer meeting, the master file of the shareholder would be modified and taken into account in the latest changes in the shareholding. The general practice that could be followed would be that at every point of time it would be ensured that the master file contains the correct total figure of shareholding. When modification have to be made because of the authorized share transfer, there would be a separate verification of program to ensure that the number of shares are transferred by the transfer is equal to the number of share transfer to the transferees. So when performing the system audit, one must verify these records to ensure whether all these procedures have been followed. Now, it is not uncommon to hear or stray the incident when the transfer and the transferee might have received the dividend warrants, or transfer receiving the dividend warrants when and not the transferee. In those circumstances, while the computer is conveniently blamed, the real culprits are the individuals who are not following the procedures correctly. In a manual environment, before the procedure of computer dividend warrants is commenced, the manual to ensure that all transfers as per the list authorized by the director have been correctly posted. So manual, again, it's easy. Computer, not a chance. Now the same procedure needs to be verified in a computerized environment, as we would not be verifying the manual posting. Computer system is to run ensure the integrity of master file of the shareholders. Now then you have to provide the parameters. The first is verification of input controls, how the inputs are being transferred to the program in which you are about to issue the share warrants for, and providing the parameters, what all need to be checked. So the program needs to provide with a certain parameter data like percentage of the dividend being declared, income tax to be deducted for the various type of shareholders, corporate body, non-resident individual, and individual. Now checking the exemption form, TDS form 15H. In a case like individual not being liable to tax, where form 15H being provided and the fact that is provided is correctly entered in the machine. For this purpose, the computer listing of all the cases where form 15H is purportedly have been provided should be printed out, and this should be physically verified with a hard copy of the form 15H. This would ensure two things. The individual who would have to pay tax would have tax deducted. Only those who provide form 15H would be enjoying the privilege of not having the tax deducted. Now if the verification is not done, so it is not usual to find the computer doing tax deduction wrongly. Note, the procedure of tax on dividend would be changing with each budget, hence there should be there needs to be a proper care required, which needs to be taken. The procedure that's being followed is in the line with the latest Finance Act. Verifying the above ensures that the input is correct so far as the shareholding is concerned, name and address, tax status. The application program preparation of dividend warrants should be tested for these purposes. Now the use of test pack. So the use of test pack is the application of the auditor's test data, live or dummy. So basically किसी प्रोग्राम को रन करने से पहले you run a test on it that how efficient it is. So it can be done live or it can be a dummy. Dummy means एकदम raw structure create करके आप उस पर टेस्ट रन करते हो to the client application program. So a small sample of data processed through computer is output compared with manually generated output using the same data. So आपसे एक sample data आपने create करा computer पे and you generated the output और एक उसी data को आप manually छोटे level पे manually उसको आप create करके देखते हो and you compare. Or if the data processing is same or if there are any diversifications, then the reason thereof. So this audit approach requires a little computer expertise, but designing of test data which will represent all the possible combination is a time consuming and a difficult process. Use of test data generators can overcome this disadvantage. So the system auditor should request for the appropriate computer program to be loaded on separate computer. You should prepare an exhaustive test pack. The test pack will consist of comprehensive data so that logic of the program is extensively checked. So एक illustration है. Now let's see. So share health, income tax status and let's look into. So share 6 शेयर होल्डर लिए हुए हैं और शेयर कितने आपने इनकी होल्डिंग कितनी है and then the tax status, that if the person is an individual, has the income tax status or not, is individual taxable, is if it's a non-resident Indian, if it's an Indian company or it's a foreign company. Now, so the contents of test pack are left to the imagination of innovativeness of the system auditor. The test pack would have been developed in such a way that all the possibility investigated in the programming logic would be tested. As a matter of fact, the program should be even tested for negative holding. Now the program should be expected to come out with error messages whenever are apparent or otherwise mistakes in data or values. For example, there should be no shareholder who has got nil shares. Shareholder is a minor. Shareholder has negative value, says 1 is 10. The total number of shareholders under each of the categories does not tally with the control of the total respective category. So ये सारे facts अगर आप consider करो तो while you are entering such this first, second, third and the fourth information, if you are entering the program, the application you're working on, it should pop an error that you are creating a mistake while entering the values to the respective cell. Now if a shareholder has got negative holding, it means more share than what he holds have been transferred wrongly. These sort of mistakes will not arise normally in a manual environment as the individual is looking at the data, applying his mind for correctness or otherwise. अब obviously shareholding आप किसी की negative में तो वैसे भी नहीं लिखोगे, but in a computerized environment the process become mechanical and the program has to provide the type of checking which we would do if the system were manual. So hence, while creating the test pack, we should bear in mind that it should not only be illustrative but also comprehensive and exhaustive. The program would now need to be tested. The computer which has got a copy of the program loaded would not need to be utilized for load this test data. The loading of test data is done by creating a file of shareholders as a investigate test pack. After this loading of the test pack, the necessary commands for commencing the process should be given. So this procedure can easily be picked up by discussing with the regular users of the computer. So once the program commences processing, it would be processing one record at a time, as each of the records detail of the shareholder would need to be verified for its correctness and completeness. If the first record in the test data is processed, the computer should come out with error message saying no shareholding. So the moment you process the data should be processed in such a way कि आपने एक कमांड डाला और वो एक कमांड एक रिकॉर्ड एक टाइम पे प्रोसेस कर रहा है, ऐसा ही सारे रिकॉर्ड्स के साथ, और उसकी करेक्टनेस और कंप्लीटनेस पे आपको क्वेश्चन ना करना पड़े. बट जहाँ पे ये एरर हो रहा है कि दे आर बीइंग एंटर्ड इनटू मल्टीपल सेल एंड विद irregularity, the program should mention the error. Now for the second record, the message should say minor but no guardian. Shareholder had no valid income tax status. Shareholder is negative. Control do not tally. Control total. The contents of the error message would also require to be fed into the program so that appropriate message programmers would be picked up. So it is basically creating a program in a intelligent way where it should also be aware कि आप उसमें feed क्या कर रहे हो, what exactly you are trying to enter into the computer. Now if for any reason the results are not in line with the result expected, if the program were to function properly, we need to perform some following steps. First, ensure the data test pack has been entered into machine correctly. So आपका जो टेस्ट जिस पे आप टेस्ट रन करने वाले हो एटलीस्ट वो alignment में होना चाहिए. Now this can be done by taking out a printout of the test pack compared with the what was investigated to be fed into the computer. Then note down the malfunctioning of the computer program, that what errors has been point out the errors and what exactly you need to link into. For example, if the record number is 1, process without giving an error message, the program is not testing for nil balance of the shareholder. That is, the master file contains the detail of the shareholder who have ceased to be the shareholder as they have sold out all their holdings. Now at the end of the testing of the program and after evaluating results, the system auditor is able to conclude as what type of bugs are basically issues in the program. So bugs, as we know, are mistake for the program. For instance, list of bugs which could have been discovered by using above test pack could be: program does not check nil holding, existing of income tax status not being verified, holding of the status by a member not being verified to ensure that is positive, there is no build control to verify the integrity of the file. If the tools are not built and verified, if the data is unreliable, it will go unchecked. How about इसी टेस्ट पैक में आपके टोटल नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स जो इशूड कैपिटल है और पेड अप कैपिटल है, ऑथराइज कैपिटल है, ये सारी डिटेल्स भी उसके पास हो ताकि आपका शेयर्स जितने भी आपने इशू पेड ऑथराइज कर रखे हैं उसका आपको टोटल टैली हो जाएगा. Can be used. Now the auditor should discuss with the user department if the secretarial department is performing the system audit. Should discuss it with the developers of the program. Till the time such program bugs are being removed, that version of the program cannot be used. That's not bug free. So the juncture that secretarial department would inform computer department of correction to be effected after correcting the program. The new version of program would be created and the librarian will take a note of it. The system auditor in the meantime will prepare a report. So after taking the risk pack into consideration, if the program is bug free, obviously you are ready to use it. If not, have to wait for it, make the correction effective, run the test program again. Till the time auditor would be preparing a report what went wrong. So norms and procedure for computerization. The system are developed to meet the organization business objective. An application should be developed and implemented to ensure organizational business objectives. The system may be developed in-house or acquired from outside. Whether developed in-house or bought from the third parties ready-made packages, it is an accepted fact that user need would change and so the system would need to be modified. It is essential that the point of ensuring that the system are reliable, well accepted, best practices should be followed for system development. Now whether the bought from third party, in-house, or the changes procedure should confirm and expected with the best practice. Now this alone will ensure that the system software is not only developed properly but also maintained as well thereafter. A need of new system to be developed may arise under any one of the following conditions. So when there is a need for new system to be developed, when there is a new opportunity related to an existing business process, when there is a problem with relates to an actual business process, a new technology that will enable the organization to take advantage of the technological developments, a program associated with the technology currently in-house. So चार situation या आगे देखते हैं चार situations या इसके अलावा और भी multiple reasons होते हैं. Majority we can consider there is an opportunity, positive, and there is a problem, and there is a new technology in the market where the technology which is being used in the organization is obsolete for now, and problem is associated with the technology which is in-house, means the kind of computer systems you have developed within the organization, that's basically are tailor-made. It's not working to its optimum level, or the optimum level is way too far from in comparison to the other technology being system by the competitors or in the market. So the more common application could be investigated from the company secretary point of could be fixed deposit system, preparation of dividend warrant interest warrant, fresh issue of capital, issue of bonus share. So this is something we always link into, and obviously we have the deep thorough study of these aspects, so we can understand need for information system in a better way. So as if a company secretary, we are associated with mutual fund company, or as a company secretary in practice, we have to verify the processing procedures to ensure that all regulatory procedures are complied with. The following process would have to be considered. A company acting as a registrar for mutual fund is entirely reliant upon information connection with the opening balance of investment, purchase less sale to arrive at the closing balance, and thus declare that the net asset value at the end of the day. This is true. While above list is only illustrative, we need to understand that the areas where the computer could be utilized is only dependent on the capabilities of the concerned management to utilize the technology. So the major components in software development are as follows. While developing software, these things are considered and prioritized. First is the feasibility study, then the requirements definition. If a develop in-house development program, alpha testing. If ready-made, acquired, acquisition of software modification thereafter. Then beta testing, approval, implementation, and post-implementation. What is feasibility study is also another consider. So feasibility will consider the technical as also the financial. The factors which would be considered while performing the feasibility study would be, now while going through the feasibility study, what you need to do is computerization is required or not, existing system can be modified or improved, or you have to buy the fresh one, the time taken by the new system is developed, the cost associated with it, चार चीजें is required. Now considering the above mentioned factors, weighing the advantage of the disadvantage of the considering whether the proper system would really meet the objective, a decision would be taken. The factors which would be considered for taking a decision as to whether the system should be developed in-house or bought a ready-made package would be cost, time, resources required by the way of availability of staff and the capability to develop system. If a package is bought from an outsider, whether it can be used as a test or whether any customization, that is changes to be made, the requirement of an organization will be required and should be considered. Then if a purchase from third party, the source will not be provided. The source code is the original programming code used for developing a program. So basically while they develop them, they have the programming files with respect to the same. Any program has to be changed, source code required to be modified. If the source code is not available, you cannot modify the program. The vendors would be providing an executable program, that is program code created by the completion process of a source code. An executable program also is called the object code, cannot be altered. So third party, you purchase the software, has to customize it. If it requires to be customized, you need to have the program code, but object code cannot be altered because that is constant, and if you don't have the programming code, you cannot modify the program accordingly. That's an apology for the same. Now if a ready-made program is being purchased from the outsider, it should be the root burst having a good proven record, and the vendor should be financial stable, has to be in a business and continue to exist, provide the maintenance systems for the software packages to be maintained. So अगर आप किसी third party से कोई software खरीद रहे हो, you need to make sure the software you're purchasing from requires a maintenance. For the purpose of such, आपको सिर्फ ये confirmation में लेना है कि जिस ब्रांड से आप वो सॉफ्टवेयर परचेज कर रहे हो उसका बिजनेस कितना सस्टेन कर जाएगा, बिकॉज इफ द बिजनेस इज नो लॉन्गर in the being running in the market, unfortunately you never know will you find a adequate maintenance contract somewhere from the third party other than the vendor for maintenance of such software or not. Now then, the requirement definitions. The user group should clearly specify the business requirement. For example, the secretarial department should explain clearly expectation regarding the functionality of the proposed system. If it were a shared application system, required would be broadly covered following aspect. There would be a master data existing shareholder with the names and their address. Shareholding would need to be created. The share transfer would require to be effected between the existing and the new member who acquire the shares. The system has to provide for the members selling part of their holding. The master data should have the details regarding not only to the income tax status of the resident, non-resident, but also the liability for the same. Every transfer of share meeting following factors should be verified. So हो सकता है अभी आपको समझ नहीं आ रहा हो कि शेयर कहाँ से इंडल्ज हो रहे हैं. हम एक इलस्ट्रेशन लेके चल रहे हैं जहाँ पे वी आर कंसिडरिंग कंपनी मेंटेनिंग द डेटाबेस and the application is regarding to the process of such database to analyze that whether such programs shall consider the number of shares, the liability, the tax to be deducted, and the transfer which has been made subsequently, even before or after such thing, if the dividends being declared. So whether the number of shares are transferred by the transfer is equal to the number of shares acquired by the transferee. First, total number of shareholding should be obtained after the transfer to ensure that there is no alteration to the total issue capital. It may be necessary to file a number of return to the regulatory bodies like company law department, income tax department. When proposed to computerize shareholding of all the above would be mentioned as the requirement at the minimum level. Now, as a matter of fact, the details which would be required to be provided would be far more in a manner such as the details would have to be provided as likely to the shareholder number, folio number, name of the shareholder, address, other details like husband name, father name, guardian in the case of minor, etc. Apart from those details, the user should specify the access control and management information needs. Access control should be specifically mentioned that what restriction should be placed on what information, who needs to be authorized to access information. Now, in the manual environment, the shareholders register is under the secured control of the senior officer and share certificate. So when the system is being computerized, a company secretary or the senior officer of the company secretary department should specify the requirement for control that are necessary so that when the system is developed, the adequate and appropriate code will be built to the system to extent possible. Where not possible, a compensating control will be investigated and recommended. So while you are creating the system information for the purpose of such, you need to make sure that the kind of security integrity of the data which is required to be maintained shall be developed along with the development of the software with respect to the details required to be entered and the data which is required to be maintained, which is practical manually, but where it has to be computerized and in a mechanical way has to be in alignment with. Now, if the shareholders are not implemented, situations like share capital not tallying, transfer continuing to be a shareholder book even after the transfer has been effected, or the transfer requiring more share than the paid, such will arise. Now, then you have the software acquisition. For the above paragraph, everything is self-explanatory, no explanation required, it's just basic English, so I'm not putting much efforts over here. However, with respect to reading, my readings, anything which will require an explanation, I'll go through it. Okay. Now this is software acquisition. After the requirement definition has been provided, the next phase will be consider whether the system needs to be developed in-house or a ready-made system being supplied by a third party could be used. It is not uncommon to find a ready-made package being utilized as the major factors in the functionality of share capital more or less similar. The requirement as defined in the earlier phase would be provided to various vendor or software packages. A decision would be taken from the proposal made by different vendor taking into consideration of the following factors. So, what here need to be acquired? First, vendors should be reliable. Are they? Who are the current customers and what is the feedback from them? What is the financial position of the vendor? Is he well established and likely to continue to be in business so that he should be able to rely upon any modification to the existing system to customize their requirement and also be in a position to maintain the software in future and such need if arise. Once the decision is taken acquiring a software package from a third party and after negotiation has been made completed regarding the price and the services level of a formal contract needs to be entered into. The contract should broadly cover the following aspect. So contracting with vendor, while drafting the agreement, please consider this. Now specific description of deliverables, that is would be the various output of the system. First, the cost. What would be the data at which the deliverables would be available? What would be the kind of support that would be provided while system being installed? Make it very clear that the contract should be final only after users have performed the acceptance testing, is given the clearance regarding the functionality on also the control, and to what extent the change is being made. What would be the documentation standard expected from the changes to be made? What would be the documentation support provided by the vendor? Further phases, when the system is to be developed in-house, the requirements of definition are. So this is from the third party, and within the organization, if you're developing something, you need to understand the detailed design, then you move to the programming, then the errors of the program has to be removed, testing of the program, implementation and post-implementation. Next you have the detailed design of the system. So based on the user specification as mentioned the requirement definition phase, the system personnel would develop a detailed design. At this stage, the screen design would presented, system flowcharts would be developed. This would provide details how much information will flow through the system. This would also include the details of converting data from manual to an existing computerized system, or from an existing computerized system. There would be interaction with the users, ensure that the requirements of the system deliverable match. Obviously, there needs to be a person interview over what sort of system is required to be developed. A system will consist of several modules. For example, share a system may consist of the following modules: master creation module, transfer registration module, dividend warrant preparation module, modules for preparing various statements in connection with the regulatory requirement, and modules for the providing management information system. Then you go for the programming. Now creating the program. So it's the process giving instruction to the computer that from the given input required output would be obtained. That how exactly it's going to function. The process of writing the program is called coding. Individual who get trained in programming who would be assigned the job for doing the coding. So basically IT guys. These are certain programming standards to be followed. The rationale for programming standard to be followed is that it is not dependent upon any one individual who did the original coding to explain the basis. So once the standards are adhered to the training programmer, it would be able to understand how the program has been written. Main problem area in programming is that documentation standards are not adhered. As a matter of fact, documentation may be totally absent also. The emphasis from the system and program angle is to get the system going. Also, it is not uncommon to find user and management pressuring the system development team to develop a system that will make it go live without unreasonably short time span. Whatever the reason be, it is not common to find the documentation standard being given the go by. Minimum document standards should be adhered to. Lack of documentation sometimes attributed to the fact that the staff turnover is high. From the point of view, the adhering the best practice, the reason that is likely that it would be staff turnover should be deciding the factor maintaining a good standard of documentation. Documentation is all about creating the evidence of the fact that what exactly it's been working on. While you're creating the program, the details of the program which you are indulged to, documentation is not in a proper sense with respect to the person who's creating the non-disclosure, and I mean there's a lot of things. Think you being an organization, you allow someone to develop a program, moreover you're sharing the data of the information which is which is very crucial, which has to be
protected. There needs to be documentation while creating the program. You need to make to understand the need while you're going through the definition, you're debugging the program, anything. Coding is something आप एक प्रोग्राम डेवलप कर रहे हो in such a way that it should fulfill the requirement. Now think you being the IT guy and I am the company secretary. Now being the company secretary, I know what my requirement should be and what am I supposed to do. I need to explain each and everything, then only you can process the coding. Apart from that, there needs to be a proper documentation that what exactly is being explained, how the program should be developed, has the test pack been run or not, everything. Then we have the debugging of program. The programs are written with the objective of giving instruction to the computer so that from the given input required, the program output will be obtained. However, instruction to the computer may not be conveyed properly. In such a circumstances, the program would be defective and technically called the program has got bugs, that is defects. The responsibility of the programmer to ensure that these defects or bugs are removed and the instruction are conveyed properly. This is the process of removing bugs is called debugging. It is the responsibility of the programmer to debug the program he has written. He should ensure that the functionality of a program in order to build the control function as expected. It should run as it was supposed to be constructed and any changes are indulged into in a short span of time. So there are various methods of debugging a program. By adopting these methods, the program would be able to locate the errors committed. He would rectify the error, test the program again, and till the time it is not functioning as expected. The process of debugging programs is also the testing of program. For a testing program, illustrative but exhaustive test data would be created. That is a set of dummy data would be created so that logical parts in the program would be tested. Effectiveness of testing a program is very much depending on creating an exhaustive test data. There are various types of testing. The programmers perform some tests. Some perform the system analyst by some users. Discuss the flu type of test and who does it and when. Pilot. Pilot itself is something at the beginning of any new change or program or any new product, anything, be it anything, there is a pilot patch. So new program is into pincher. Now this is the preliminary test, limited evaluation system. Programmers generally perform this. Unit, individual module of a program. This will not only verify the functionality but also the control structure. A successful unit test would ensure that the internal operation of the program is in line with the specification provided. Then interface. So the thing I'm working on is basically the interface. In the individual module, this is only the part of the total system. So it is necessary that after all the individual testing of the modules are over, all of them should be tested together to ensure that the interfacing between them is as per expectation, means they are able to communicate properly. The system testing analysis was the higher responsibility than the programmer generally perform this. System analyst has to ensure that the system as whole should work properly. This process he would verify. Recover after the software has hardware failure or the hardware has hardware has failure. System ability to process high volume expected during the peak times. Regression testing. This is an important test to be performed by any time program has been modified. So when the business needs to change, department needs to decide, makes a change to improve the performance of program, the existing system would require to be modified. Now how much it is adaptive to change. However, in this connection, it must be ensured that the performance of the existing system is not in any matter affected due to changes being incorporated subsequent to the system having been originally tested and found to be in order. When a modification is affected, the first will be ensured to see whether the modification has been incorporated in the program so that change program caters the change condition subsequently incorporated. At the same time, it should ensure that the balance of the system program should not be affected either in the functionality or controls. To achieve this objective, a comprehensive test of the system would be taken to verify whether the modification affected works properly and it has no adverse impact on already proved system.
The existing system should continue perform properly and only take on modification. Regression testing is a test methodology by which this is ensured. It is necessary that anytime change is affected, regression test should be done without fail be performed. Regression हो गया, then you have the parallel testing. So changes incorporate करना, then incorporate करने के बाद you have to run it accordingly. Functions are same it was doing earlier. Changes being adapted and not just within a specific module, and it with respect to the every module which such module relates to. Then you have the parallel testing. Okay, we perform the parallel testing. System is tested and the copy of live data. Example, share transfer affecting during last 6 months. The result of share transfer already available in the live environment as manual system or another computer system is in existence. When the same data is fed into the new system, the result obtained should be compared to the ensure accuracy. So दो computers रखे, program run करा, check करा, data transfer करके, data compile करके, run करके. If it's working on the same direction, same expectation, it's correct. So we do the parallel testing just to make sure the number of time the software being run on different computers should not change its processing. As the same data is run on the two system, one new and another existent, and this is called parallel testing. Acceptance testing. Now the system personnel after giving satisfied themselves that the new system will meet the requirements of the user, the system would hand over to the user for testing. This testing is called acceptance testing, as it is name indicates this test conducted before actually accepting the system. As the system has to be accepted by the user and not the system developer perform acceptance testing. The user would test the system for whether the condition he'd like to satisfy that functionality is as expected and the expected controls are effected within the system. After the user is satisfied that the system is given to them by the system personnel is acceptable to them, they convey by the same means of user sign off. Acceptance testing is all about the person who will be actually using the programming environment. Is the system ready to be handed over to them or not? So system has to be accepted by the user, not by the developer. Developing is just not sufficient. It has to be accepted by the people who will be using it. The user will be using it. So after the user is satisfied, the system is given them by the system personnel, acceptance to them. They convey their means of user sign off. User sign off is an acceptance by the end user. Only after obtaining the user sign off system, it would be with the developers deemed to be ready for implementation. The system would along have been an environment which is called a test environment. The user department's environment is called live environment or production environment. After the successful acceptance of testing, system would migrate from one test environment to the production of environment. Then the implementation. Now upon the successful completion of testing, the program is converted into executable mode in the computer department, and not only the copy of executable program is transferred to the production environment, the corresponding source code would also be maintained safely in the computer department with the librarian. Post implementation review. After the successful implementation of the new system, it is recommended that the system is verified to ensure that the correctness of design, appropriate test of the controls and generally other objectives of the system. At the post implementation review, following features would be assessed. This system meets the user requirement, have the access control being properly implemented. Post is basically now you have handed over the program which have been created to the users. Now is that meeting the requirement? Because now it is the program software which has been developed after so much work. Is it fruitful or not? On the completion of assessment, any observation regarding to inadequacies, deficiency in the plan for implementing this should be recorded. This should be conveyed by the manager or the user department of the manager of the IT department or through a steering committee, so that it is necessary steps could be taken into implementing changes. Developing a system, making changes wherever necessary, developing it again and again, making requests for changes is a iterative process. And it's important that whether the original development or modification of all the best practice to be followed in various phases should be strictly adhered. The phases should also be sequentially followed even in the case of change management. Now, what is change management? Now, most important aspect of the software lifecycle is change. Change has several dimensions. Now, changes can be driven by external factor with the organization. For example, SEBI or company law authorities being bring about to change disclosure formats, manner of accounting. The organization has no choice but to adopt it, because if there is no acceptance of the documentation which is being creating on your information system, it is of no relevance. Changes can be driven by internal factors. After receiving recent incidents involving Tata Finance, the company has restored tightening of internal controls. There is an important angle involved in maintaining change. Managing change. The human angle. A change involves a different way of working. There is a general resistance to change. Taking ownership for the change is again major issue with the many Indian companies. Change also involves in many departments, thus requiring the coordination and ensuring unified approach. The speed of change is another matter. Now, the foregoing goes to the show that there is a need to be a formal process for making changes, particularly to information systems. Now, we've seen how rigorous the SDLC process need to be performed for the perspective of system audit. Now, we know that some business rules will change every year. For example, income tax, corporate tax, excise duty laws, sales tax, and the other laws penetrate into the levies of such auctor, etc. Change within each budget in the central government and several state governments. Sometimes the incorporation of new rules necessitates altering the structure of the database tables and the associated programs. Following question to cope up, meaning to function accordingly, what needs to be done? Is there a requirement fully understood first? So to cope up with, to match the requirement, you need to understand the requirement, who are all to be involved, whose views should be finally taken, that of the final authority. Has it's been studied from various angles such as accounting, legal, implementability, implication, etc. Has the final authority taken a total view and decided on the course of action? The system developers needs to be given an accurate specification of the new requirement. Who will do it? Control have to be built to ensure that the processing is complete, correct, and accurate. Who will check it and how? If the changes are temporary, such as earthquake surcharge on income tax valid for 1 year, they have to be rolled back. Is the system development team taking care of this? How will this will be ensured? Now, at some point of time, the system may become so altered that with the changes that might not no longer be efficient, or running software may be risky in the sense that could terminate abnormally or destroy data. There is a process to judge the health of the system, take specific maintenance action. So, change to an extent can be understood only by the way the things are being developed. So one needs to understand that there is a optimum use of a certain resource. After that, if you keep on changing or try to modify it accordingly, it might not function as was supposed to and can destruct the data files on the computer, or can destruct the data in which is detrimental to the organization. Now, it needs to be understood the computer application with their underlying hardware, network elements, operating system, database, and the application programs are joint intellectual property of the management, the user of departments, and the IT department. Each of these entry mentioned above contributed the existence of the application for a specific business purpose. The concerned entities, depending upon the application for carrying out their task, it should be therefore protected from accidental or international tampering that can seriously affect the corporate interest. The organization need to have a proper change management process in place. The framework consists of setting up a change control authority in the organization with a constitution that can do justice to the subject. So the change management framework. So first, setting up a change control authority in the organization with a constitution that can do justice to the subject.
Then change initiation, review and authorization mechanism, implementation process for the same, documentation standard that permits complete and correct capture of the proceeding of the entire change management process, setting up the technology renewal process. Now let's just understand it one by one. The first thing we have is the change control authority. An organization may have several application system and subsystem. These systems are interrelated. For example, a new plant may be set up for the production flow. It has been set up to augment production. It uses the same raw materials such as existing plant. The finished product may be by the same way varying in specific technical details. The materials manager wants to keep a track of the indents plant-wide, since the vendor is not interested in knowing which plant he is supplying to. So far as the material is same, the purchase order is consolidated for both plants. Let us just say the both plants have a separate stores attached to themselves. The material is to be delivered to the plants as specified. Each plant will carry out its inward quality check and taken into the stock material passes to the quality check. Let us stop at this stage and note the change earlier was one plant, one store. Now there are two plants, each with its own head. Now for the control reason, breakup is required as stated above, and the requirement is emanating from the materials manager. Now over here the obvious question is that what are the financial implications for adopting of a new plant? Is the procedure correct? Is the change really required? Cannot one store and one purchase section handle the needs of both plants? Effective departments are purchase, stores, finance, information system which is carrying out the change. The top management would like the affected users who have used the requisite domain knowledge and competence to go into the issue involved. To arrive at a joint solution to the problem, the onset of changes always result in creating some extra task. Those who have to carry out these extra tasks may either want extra resources or may not want to take on extra load. This is where a decision to be taken from the change to be implemented. So एक मशीन आपके पास है, एक मशीन एक स्टोर. Now you have an additional store. So आप क्या consider कर रहे हो? आप you're buying a new machine. So this is a change. हो सकता है टेक्निकल स्पेसिफिकेशन सेम हो या डिफरेंट हो, या प्रोडक्ट जो फाइनल प्रोडक्ट प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है दोनों का सेम हो, बट अगेन टेक्निकल जो डिटेल्स हैं उस प्रोडक्ट की उसमें थोड़े से चेंजेस वगैरह हों. इनको एसेस करना, वेरीफाई करना, उसके बाद ये क्वेश्चन करना कि आपने जो प्लांट वगैरह ख़रीदा है उसमें कौन कौन से डिपार्टमेंट इफेक्ट होंगे, चेंज चाहिए नहीं चाहिए, आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से क्या वो चीज़ फंक्शन कर रही है या नहीं कर रही है. एंड उसके अलावा इनके टेस्ट वगैरह कंसीडर करना. It's again sort of a task to be undertaken, and depending upon the experts you have in the organization, they need to look into and how well they will be functioning. So it is prudent to constitute a change control board consisting of head of function headed by a functional director as the chairperson. So internal audit should also be a member of change of control board. To deliberate the control security is issue involved. The change initiation take place when the detailed written request is raised by the effective entity. Now let's just say that in our example, the purchase supervisor was one to feel the need of change. The document comes to the material head for the review. He has to consult the store supervisor, account department also. After tracing out the first level issues, the request is firmed up, sent to the coordinator of the change of board. Here the change request is reviewed. Now the aspects in all pointers will be looked into, and some of the points may be agreed to, some may not be agreed to. There may be some fundamental unsolved problem that might arise in the deliberation. Now at this stage, the request may route to a task force consisting of internal or external experts who will evaluate that change is required or not. The changed request is also commented upon by the IT department, as they may require an extra resources to implement the change. The function director heading the change control board then puts up the change request as approved. to the top management and the team headed by the CMD if the change is a major one. Now let us just say that the organization was having a legacy system that was developed in-house. In course of the time, the system became obsolete. The several pieces of the system got deactivated and replaced with manual working. At this stage, all the users are dissatisfied and want it to go in for, say, ERP package. Now, this is a major decision impacting the entire organization. The cost implication might necessitate board level decision. This is an example where the decision cannot be taken within the ambits of the CCB. Cool. Now, information system auditor needs to look at the entire change control process. Otherwise, the rigor system which was introduced can be diluted and the control aspect rendered ineffective. So, देखते हैं. आपने change request forward करी, then it is formally initiated through a proper form, reviewed by the functional area, the CCB, then change control board deliberation and recommendations, authority ने approve करा, authority approve changes, implementation, changes and validation, clarifying and detailing. So this is how it goes. It is to be noted that upon approval of the change control board, it is intimated by approving the authority, which passes back to the initiator to the functional head. The details approved changes are to go into the IT department along with the copy affected departments for implementation. The third is the changing implementation process. So it has to be initiated with a project plan for better ownership and involvement. It is desired that the project manager role should be assumed by the initiating functional manager, work closely with the CIO, head of IT and other departments. The project plan has to be in detail with roles, responsibility, task duration, interdependencies and workaround in case existing system needs to be brought down for some time. We should also address the issues of whether the change would be carried out in-house or outsourced. Internal audit and information audit have to be involved during ensuring the system controls are foolproof and changes are thoroughly tested before rolling out. There also needs to be a mechanism for troubleshooting. This is because despite the best of care, computer system can have bugs and they have to be properly tracked and eliminated. The recommended testing methodology needs to be rigorously followed if the necessary user have been retained in the use of application. When the users are spread over multiple locations, it becomes necessary to plan the training and rollouts appropriately. Now, documentation standards. Every organization needs to evolve its own documentation standards for various type of documents. Textbooks on software engineering are replete with various templates for standards. While a rigorous and elaborate treatment may really necessary for a software house producing highly complicated and integrated software, user organization needs to document their system so that compliance with the requirement and control may be maintained. In the absence of documentation, knowledge of system and software remain in minds of some individuals. In the event of iteration, their knowledge goes away with them. Therefore, it's necessary to capture this knowledge in a written down form. The first standard an organization needs is standard documentation. It's a standard for documentation. This standard stipulates get up the layout, font, pagination, style, paragraph, numbering and indexation, etc. All the documents follow the style and template the document standard. The next important document is the functional requirement specification document that lays down the business functionality required. This document does not address itself to any hardware software platform but merely describes input, process and outputs required in mentioned functional areas. The functional requirement have to be translated into a software framework. For this purpose, analysis carried out into relationship between the different functional areas is defined in terms of information flows. At this stage, the details of multi-location operation, volume, frequency and duration for keeping online records such as last 3 year financial data, etc. are noted. In a sense, the software requirement specification SRS implicitly assume there is a design framework, but this is restricted to interface only. So specific interface, this will be restricted. So financial data has to be restricted to specific interface. Then a special module is created for another data to be functional in accordance with. Although the decision on the platform etc. can be correctly taken after design phase, it needs to be remembered that there is a lead time for 4 to 6 weeks in getting a hardware and system software. For this reason, from type of requirement, a platform is generally decided as SRS developed assuming the backdrop. In case one is selecting a package application, then the choice of platform becomes automatically one with the package runs best. The design phase, in which how the aspect of the system is fleshed out, carries all the important factors on which system foundation would rest. The software design description document records these points under the heads of input, process, outputs. Where the object orientation is used, this document that described the object hierarchy and interrelationship. This document must be updated with every change, so that should be SRS document B. The program code follows the detailed design description that goes the level of specifying programming logic. They are standard for coding the various languages. These standards are based on easy readability, understandability, efficiency of the code. Conventions are adopted for giving names to the variables, intending conditional statements, and writing comment lines which will be of use to a programmer reading the code and which will be ignored by the computer. Now, there are also standards for the software testing, documenting the test plan results. This will be not for the place to go for the further details, but the IS auditor needs to look into the documents such as IEEE standards and guidelines for software engineering. Get familiar with the standard. IEEE standard, this is the Institute of Electric Engineering, which they have developed. Let me show you, that would be better. आपको याद है अपने पहले चैप्टर में जब वाईफाई बिल्ड कर रहे थे, तो these are the student who develop the standards. So 802 standards. Let me zoom it. So these are the standards. So I mean, एक standard benchmark create करने का सबसे बड़ा benefit है people will follow it and make sure the errors are mitigated to the extent. Now ESG then needs to compare in the in-house documentation with the standards, comment upon completeness, clarity, veracity of the documents. Now it's very important to check whether the change in documentation is done every time change is implemented in the system. So any sort of change, a proper documentation is required. Absence of documentation and rigorous testing should not be accepted. And then you have the technology renewal. An important aspect that there is a high rate of obsolescence in the IT. The Change Control Board need also to understand the concern itself with the technology renewal. Because of the depth of technology knowledge is required, many management do not appreciate warnings surrounded by the IT department. In non-IT organization, it is a common to have junior manager heading IT. She in turn reports some functional managers such as chief of finance, chief of production, etc. The head of IT has a lot convincing to do before the organization wakes up to realize the technology being obsolete. An IS auditor need to be wary of this aspect. One should keep abreast of the technology currency and comment upon need the element of the obsolescence if any. Now I have the computer controls and security. Increase in dependence upon the computer, risk of breach of security system is also increasing. The rise takes often when the temp prompt people defrauding the organization get away with criminal gains. Now if there is no control on the printing of dividend warrants in the system, the investor could walk away with multiple dividends for the same amount invested. A vendor could get away with multiple payments of goods service delivered once. Customer dues can be conveniently whitewashed. Insider collusion with the external elements prepared to the most of the fraud and share spoils. First principle of the control lies in controlling access to the computer system. Nobody should allow direct access to the servers than authorized administrator. Access to the server room can be controlled through the swipe card, fingerprint, biometric devices. In sensitive data centers, there are moment sensing cameras that constantly carry out surveillance. यानी कि आप सिस्टम में जैसे ही वॉक इन कर रहे हो, the way you are moving, the way you are processing, they are being checked. Security officer watch the display in each zone act when suspicious activity occurs. These key areas are the network control area, server bay, power supply, air conditioning, and security in control room. Each zone has a remote lockable doors acting as a man traps. Intruder can be restrained from forbidden zones till the security officer can be nabbed the person. Modern data centers are also built with flood proofing, fire proofing, and earthquake proofing measures to ensure that the even accident through the acts of God, the crucial system stays unaffected. Logical access should be limited to the role play by the user. For example, the data entry clerk need not to have the access control to the payroll database. She need not rewrite the update access to the raw data file that can be tracked to an operator. An accounts clerk need not to have the access for the production data logs. In order to ensure that the access rights are properly followed, we have the system of password. The system administrator assign access the right to the user required by their work. The user protects his or her access through password. Ideally, password should be minimum of 12 character long, having a combination of letters, numbers. Where permitted, one can use special character also. There are cases where users cannot remember their password, so the password, so they write the password on the post and paste the same on their machine, or else use the guess words such as their own names, name of wife, child, pet. Such words are usually small and can easily be broken into. So the password needs to be very specific and something which cannot be cracked. The computer system remembers our password by storing them into internal encrypted file. As an expert cracker can retrieve the password if the operating system has not been set up for the highest security level. For example, let us say that the security breach occurred in Microsoft Windows 2000 operating system. This is reported to the Microsoft and they issue immediately hotfix or patch of the operating system software that prevents security hole being misused. Later on, Microsoft collect the similar correction and bug fixes into the server pack. Details of such hotfixes and server packs are available in the Microsoft website. User can download such patches and correct their operating system. Similarly, there are other resources correcting Unix bugs. When such patches are applied and recommended security helps are taken care of at the time of the operating system installation, we say that the operating system has been hardened. Another class of insecurity comes through virus. Computer viruses are the malicious programs capable of replicating themselves or destroying the data or annoy the user with meaningless messages. They are malicious codes known as Trojans that helps into steep the computers into the electronic mail attachment. They can remain in the server and the copy of critical secret information such as email address, other password, credit card numbers, and transmit the information to their creators. In turn, the creators can indulge fraud or cause trouble by changing the password, etc. Internal websites are attacked by the different methods. Denial of service. Attacks easily flooded in the web server by sending the thousands of high priority system messages. The servers are rendered too busy responding such superior messages and then attending productive work. Spoofing. Spoofing आप देख ही लो क्या होता है. Spoofing. So, request spoof URL, read the URL, real page content, spoof the page. So, better explanation is right. So, attacker through the IP address in the internet, then the router, you victimize it, the trusted host. Or let's go to a YouTube video. Spoofing attack. Let me show you.
Today we're going to talk about a fundamental vulnerability of the internet, spoofed source addresses, why it is a problem, and how you can help measure and mitigate it. Simply by downloading this tool, you will be able to help improve internet security. First, a little background about how data moves across the
So there
internet.
being two users,
Every bit of
that
information
how
that
the
crosses
data
the
move
internet
is
is
the
sent in a
every bit
packet
of
with a
information
source and
crosses the
destination
internet
address.
and sent a packet with the
The
source,
destination address is
destination,
used to tell the
and the
internet
destination
where the
is
packet is
used,
going, while the source
the
address
packet
is
goes,
used
the
to tell the
source is
destination
addressed.
where it came from, so the destination can send a response to the right machine.
Yeah.
Intermediate routers do not generally
So
examine the
right
source
machine and
address
the
at all.
intermediaries not generally examined, so the source address
IP source
at all,
address
IP
spoofing takes advantage of this
source
fact
address
by using a
spoofing.
fake source address,
Now
similar
the
to putting a fake
attacker
return address on
will
an envelope and
initially
putting it in
try
a
to
mailbox.
fake the return address.
Now, if
So
someone
your
wants to
data
disrupt
will
or
be
completely
transferred
disconnect
instead
someone
of
else's internet service,
to
they can
someone
send packets with a
else.
fake source address to that victim.
So आप
So many packets that
imagine
the
कर रहे
victim
हो
has
कि
no
आपका
resources
data
left to
instead
process
of being
legitimate
transferred
packets.
to the person whom you're
An
addressing
attacker
to,
can even
it
use
is
many different fake
addressing to
source
someone
addresses
else.
across
Whereas
many
the
packets,
the
making it
attacker
operationally
who is
infeasible to trace
not
back the
supposed
attack
to
to
receive
its
the
origin,
data,
or to block the
pretending to
attack
be
at the
the
victim.
some person who is the
It
addressee
gets even
you're being
worse.
addressed to.
An attacker can commandeer intermediate nodes to amplify an attack
The
by
person
triggering
you
that
are
node to send the
dealing with
victim
the
very large
data.
packets, which take
Now,
more resources to
the service
process.
is being hacked. It
The only way to block
replicates
such
the
attacks
attacker,
is at or
attacker
near the source,
replicates the
every source,
uh,
because only those networks near the edge
person
know
whom
which
you are
addresses are
sending the data
legitimately
to,
supposed to be source
and
addresses
the
in packets
the
leaving
person
those edge
whom the
networks.
data should be addressed to, it's never receiving the
Unfortunately,
data
such
at all, because
blocking,
the
or source address validation,
validation for the
although a
server is
well-known
being
best
taken
practice
by
for
the
decades, is an example of classic
attacker,
incentive
right?
misalignment, because
Breaking
deploying
of
source address
firewalls.
validation
This
is primarily for the
occur
benefit of
just
networks
because of
other
the
than the one deploying it.
spoofing.
And although many networks do filtering, there is no way to comprehensively
So
measure
there
the
are
extent of
multi things
deployment
which
of
is
source
being
address
occurred on the
validation
internet.
without
Now you just
crowdsourcing
cannot understand
volunteers
what
to download a
spoofing is
tool
all
that
about.
attempts to
So
send a packet with a
spoofing
fake
all
source
in all,
address to a known server and then
आप
analyze
मान लो
which
आप अपना
packets
डेटा ट्रांसमिट करना चाहते थे किसी को, which was supposed to be done in such a way where, let's say, I want to transmit the data to you. Instead of being transferred, the data being transferred to you, it's being transferred to someone else. But I would never get to know it, because the person who is pretending to be the person whom you are addressing the data to cannot get into the. Okay, just a minute. I think I should attach a Wacom and explain it better. What spoofing? Just a minute. Creating video like this is like very interesting, trust me. आपको इनफैक्ट इंटरेस्टिंग लगता है जब आप ऐसे काम कर रहे होते हो. You have the real illustration, YouTube assistance, and best part revisionary aspects से videos बहुत अच्छे आते हैं. So spoofing, मान लीजिए ये आप हैं और आपने कोई मेल सेंड करा अपने एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर को. इंस्टेड ऑफ डेटा बीइंग ट्रांसमिटेड है, it will go to someone else, and this person is going to be the attacker. So the data, instead of going to him, will divert to this guy. Why? Because the server is being compromised. So आपको कभी पता ही नहीं लगेगा कि ये डेटा इन तक नहीं, इस पे जा रहा है. This is because the firewall access has been taken and the server has granted the access to this guy, and the IP address is being compromised. So ये पूरा scenario is spoofing. Basically you are being fooled at. So the need of security definitely needs to be taken care of. Let's go to the module back again. So the user is directed to get into some unwanted site by overriding the domain name service entity. Needs to remember that the information travel in the packets have the destination IP address. All the computers in the network receive all the packets through they respond only the packets designated for them. A hacker or the cracker uses information to recraft the information content in the packet. Now, the modern information system are used to connect the external agencies such as service provider, customer and suppliers to the internal network through the medium of internet. This is where major risk lies. So इसी वजह से excuse me, इसी वजह से we have a service of intranet. So to get the access of this intranet, someone needs to be the part of the organization. Any employee or someone who has to deal within the organization can only get through intranet. So far as our knowledge, internet, there is a reason it considered to be secured, but most of the just because it is costly, expensive and takes time and require huge investments, people do avoid and uses internet, which increase the more chance of being spoofed. Now, the networks are protected from attackers by using appliances or software called firewalls, which way they restrict the entry of the outsider based on security policy. So firewall is basically, it's a wall between the server and the third party. Once you have the access through the firewall, you can get into the server any time. The content and inspection intrusion detection system, which the monitor incoming packets and look known for suspicious attack patterns. When they are encountered suspicious code, they block the packets containing the same and thus protected the server. Antivirus software that keeps up to date with the latest viral identity so that infected files can be identified and quarantined if not cured. Organization requires security expert to keep the constant watch on the network security as attack patterns are dynamically changing. Recent studies by the FBI have shown that the most of the frauds and damages have been done with insider collusion. Hence, the one needs to watch the activities within and without. Security information in transit over the network is taken care of by the encryption, the secure tunnels and tracking. Encryption is basically consists of transforming the information from an intelligible form and non-intelligible form while sending. While receiving, the received information is transformed back to the original form. Modern encryption use pair of keys called public, which is downloaded to the sender of initiation of the session. The sender machine uses the mathematical algorithm to encrypt the information. Wait a minute. I think कुछ interesting मिल सकता है. This is the basic. I'm looking for something, a chart base. Let me explain it on the presentation. First, let's go through a reading and then I'll explain it. Now, so the modern encryption use pair of keys, public, which is downloaded to the sender to the on the initiation of the session. The sender machine uses a mathematical algorithm, the hash function, to encrypt the information. Encrypted function can be decrypted private key which receiver has on his machine. Thus, even the cracker traps the information cannot be decrypted. So no user trying to decrypt their permutation, because not even the fastest computer can crack the encryption in years of continuous working. यानी कि सालों साल एक कंप्यूटर को लग जाएंगे, इंसान की आप बात ही छोड़ दीजिए. So let me show you. Sender, receiver. Receiver have the and this is your document in readable form. ये दोनों का की कॉम्बिनेशन इस डॉक्यूमेंट को ओपन कर सकता है, अदरवाइज इट इज़ नॉट प्रैक्टिकली पॉसिबल टू गो अहेड विद दिस. सो और डॉक्यूमेंट ओपन हो गया. अब ओपन करने के लिए इन दोनों का कॉम्बिनेशन चाहिए. यहाँ पे ये इस लेवल पे इनक्रिप्ट हो जाती है. जैसे ही आप डॉक्यूमेंट्स आपने अपने अटैच करा, ये इनक्रिप्ट हो जाती है. इन दोनों का कॉम्बिनेशन ही इसको अनलॉक करने में हेल्प करेगा. अब आगे बढ़ते हैं, क्योंकि फर्स्ट चैप्टर में डिटेल डिस्कशन है. सो दिस विल बी लाइक अ स्मॉल सिनेरियो to have this, but working इसकी बिल्कुल ऐसी रहती है. सेंडर एंड रिसीवर. रिसीवर हैव अ प्राइवेट की, सेंडर हैव अ पब्लिक की. पब्लिक की और प्राइवेट की कॉम्बिनेशन से ये डॉक्यूमेंट ओपन होगा. ये इस तरीके से इनक्रिप्ट हो जाता है कि इवन इफ यू वांट टू डिक्रिप्ट इट, यू नीड अ प्राइवेट की, बिकॉज इतने ज़्यादा इस ऐसी लैंग्वेज में कन्वर्ट हो जाता है. तो कंप्यूटर इटसेल्फ, अ कंप्यूटर वांट्स टू, इट विल टेक ईयर्स ऑन ईयर्स टू वर्क ऑन इट. And now you have the secure tunnels are established by a combination of encryption of and authentication by special signature. Tracking tools are available to monitor the entire path taken by transmitted information. In the event of suspicious activity, the offending machine can be identified and reported. Major concern is carrying out the commercial activities over the internet or public network. Its reputation. For instance, a person buys some goods and feeds his or her credit card number. When the card company presents the bill, he can refuse it, saying that the purchase was not ordered by him or her. And the case of misuse, modern technology offers a method by which the sender can uniquely be identified and can be established that the order was indeed placed by A. This is known as non-repudiation. A computer securely is very technical and complex subject, and IS auditor needs to be aware of the type of attacks. If she could understand the various risks and consequences, she would also verify whether there was a security policy in the organization and whether there is a mechanism to keep it up to date. The IS auditor should also verify whether the password being properly constructed and kept safe. The system administrator should be aware of the security risk in their mitigation. This what can be commented upon by IS auditor if he or she gap. A documentation, standard policy and procedures, and audit approach. Documentation of the system. Take from the narrative description, flowcharts, or a combination of two. Let's look into the narrative description. Helps you to give the complete picture of the system, provides a detailed record of the system under audit and taken together with other forms of system record. It should cover a system objective targets, link and interface with the other system, environment in which the system operates, allocation of authority and responsibility, all key controls and system process, exceptional situation of the case that may need to be dealt with by the system, ad hoc control and such management reviews. And narratives may cover detailed description of transaction flows, but in some cases these can be better recorded through flowcharts. It is often useful to use the combination of narratives and flowcharts, using flowcharts to describe more complex parts of the system. If the flowcharts are used as well as their narrative description should be cross-referenced to each other. A narrative description may be used and divided into a summary overview of the system, separated detailed description of the main constituent part of the system. Full use should be made of the headings. They should be organized in a logical way in order to give a clear picture and make handling and updating easier. Wherever possible, the source of information and the names and titles of the people interviewed should be recorded. A clear, concise record of the system should be prepared. The next thing we have on the screen is flowcharts. Well aware, flowchart is a diagrammatic method of recording a system, describing a system which it flows the information flow of document or information and the related internal control within a system. Flowchart can help to obtain a perspective in the whole system, gain the understanding of the auditee's objective, identify the segregation of duties, helps the person to supervising the audit identify the error which are not being covered by the audit. Flowchart is likely to be the most effective if a logical top-down approach is taken by starting with an overview or summary flowchart followed by detailed flowchart specific process if necessary. Now there are various method of and symbols for flowcharting. So when you're preparing, make sure you remember all these points. So the flowcharts are primarily designed to show the document flows rather than operations. Although other operation can be explained by the means of narrative notes if necessary, try to avoid mixing up the regular process and exceptional process. So make sure it shall be constant. Either it's a regular process, keep it to that extent. 2 or 3 transactions per period on the same flowchart. Prepare a separate charts for the regular and exceptional process. To consider whether it's better record the system, preparing one or more basic flowchart which show the main flows of the system, supplemented by narrative description where necessary. To flowchart the actual system, in some cases it may be necessary to record the official system, and in those cases the chart must be labeled clearly to show whether it's official or the actual in functional system. To work in pencil, this will save the redrawing of the flowchart when you make a mistake. That each flowchart should have a title, the date of creation and any amendments to it, name of the person who drafted it. To make sure all the documents and every copy each of document on the flowchart are fully dealt with, think carefully before preparing a flowchart. Ask yourself whether it's necessary or whether narrative description would be just effective and less time consuming. Flowchart can be very effective way of recording document flows in the system. Advantages of flowchart. अब चार्ट से अगर मैं आपको पढ़ा रहा होता, information would have been easily communicated, assimilated. Flowcharts highlight the relationship between different parts of the system. Auditor can see the whole flow of document, potential bottlenecks and can be identified easily. Flowcharts offer a consistent method of recording. Auditor has to obtain clear understanding of information flow in order to draw up a flowchart of complex system. Cross-referencing between the system made easier. So there are a number of disadvantages of using flowchart. The most important is the time. They can take time to prepare. It's very easy for the auditor to spend long time of preparing flowchart when it would have been more efficient and useful to do narrative description instead. Other disadvantages: limited in scope, not identified the managerial and organizational control. The technique and convention have to be learned and practiced. So anyone can just not start preparing the flowchart. Complex flowcharts may confuse rather than clarify. Auditors usually need to some training and experience to be fluent preparing them. Then you have the organization charts. Organization structure relating to the system under the audit should be recorded. A copy of an existing organization chart will suffice as long as accurate and up to date. An up to date organization chart will show the detail of information flow, relationship, organization and responsibility. It is also used in identifying the staff and deciding whether the audit testing needs to be done. The date the chart was prepared should be recorded. Chart may include main department units with the description of their functions, job titles, grades and name of the staff together with the line of responsibility, all reporting lines, and minimum contents of system documentation. Whichever the method is used for documenting procedures in each system, there are certain items which should be included on every system files. These are example of document describing their purpose and use. These documents report should have filed in order which they can use in a system and the cross reference to the narrative note or flowchart. Example of reports describing their purpose and use, whether computerized or manually prepared, details the number of transactions passing through the system. These are essential to full understanding of the context of the system in relation to the overall activities of the
entity. It is therefore necessary to summarize data such as number of transactions, value of transactions, seasonal fluctuations, firm used to evaluate system. It may be also useful for the auditor to know the number of employees or a stratification of the transaction by value or age to assist the evaluation of risk when weakness is highlighted. The documentation standards have been touched upon the section on change management. Documentation guidelines are decided by policies. In the audit approach, an IS auditor goes through the documentation to understand the system and controls provided for. The IS auditor may get clues from other audits such as financial to focus on that area that needs attention. She or he, when prepares the specific test case which are passed through the computer system, deviation are noted down and converted into report. So आप एक pre-form prepare कर लेते हो जिसमें आप you can create a checklist for the document which you need to be maintained, जो कि आप later on you can present that as a report. Importantly, the IS auditor took the standard of documentation. Is it clear? Is it current? Is it complete? An example of documents standard for data model approach is given as under Annexure A. So title page, documentation, ये आपका Annexure दिया हुआ है, purpose, requirement, short title given. Same जैसे कि आप एक project report prepare करते हो, exactly it's same on that part. Input, output, then you have the user interface, specification, system description. So this is your Annexure with respect to preparing of documentation, how it can be reviewed with the into the module later, but it's self-explanatory, so I'm not going through this for now. I may take your leave. Thank you for staying with me for quite long now. Book ख़त्म हो चुकी है. In short, the information technology is all updated now. The best part is कि दो subjects आपके पास हैं, एक है आपके first module से और एक है second module से. People keep on asking, then would I be able to update the subjects for their appearing? Unfortunately, till June, I am not sure would I be able to update each and every subject. But yes, I'll try my maximum कि मैं क्या क्या upload कर सकता हूँ. Apart from this, institute ने subjects भी change कर दिए हैं. So now the videos I'm uploading now will be considered only for the old syllabus scholars. I'll be also updating for the new syllabus, but I can all I can ensure that is it will be there, but please allow me some time to make it make that recording done, and I hope these all things will be effective for you. So that be all. Thank you so much, and all the best for the people who are appearing in the June examination. So need not to worry, आपका revision जल्दी से और ज़्यादा हो जाएगा. So signing off with the last chapter, system audit and overview.